Go. All right, we are live. Go. All right. Damn. Welcome.
How's it
Hey,
going?
good, Darkcel. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
If it's okay for you, I'm just gonna say a few things about this conversation, if that's all right for you. And if you have any additions, just feel free, or if you have any contentions, also feel free to just say something. First of all, I would like to respond to a criticism that I've heard after the last conversations I've had, which is that I should not title these interviews since it's more of a conversation, and I definitely agree. So I titled this one "Conversation with Darkcel." Yeah, it's the way I learn. It's the way I understand things, is by expressing my opinion as well, and to express it to people that I think can challenge it. Yeah, so it's going to be a conversation. Of course, I have questions prepared, but if you have questions for me, just throw them at me. It's not like we're not bound to the interview format. Just some other small things, like I would prefer not to talk about politics if it's not directly related. You can definitely swear here, I don't care, but maybe no slurs, that would be good. I mean, you're an adult, I don't want to tell you what to do and not to do, but it would be cool if we can keep it that way.
I'll try my best.
And yeah, if you don't want to talk about something, if you prefer to move on or something like that, just say it and we move on. I would prefer to not get an answer rather than to get a forced answer in a way, because you feel somehow pressured into it. And yeah, other than that, I think it's going to be a pretty free conversation, and we can just start. Maybe I don't like to introduce people. Maybe we can start by you just introducing yourself. Would you be cool with that?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Darkcel. As it is now, I'm called Darkcel Forever here on YouTube. But at some point, I'll just call the Darkcel Podcast. But that channel, which I started back in probably October, November of 2019, from there up till like maybe I think it was October, November of 2023, YouTube demolished that channel. I had a huge following at that point. Um, Whether or not I was going to come back was more based on my enthusiasm and maybe my motivation to do it all of it over again. Because obviously starting over sucks. But I started doing it because it was better than keeping all that shit in your head. So I'm just another, I guess, incel blackpill channel. But I was doing it back when more of the bigger names were still around and were still more prominent. So. Uh, it was more fun back then. It was like kind of like the beginning, the peak of the black pill, and I think that was a good time
What
to be
year?
around. So
What year are
I
we
was happy to do
talking?
it. Sorry, what?
What year are we talking?
2019, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just another dark black pill incel channel.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Uh, so you just said to just get the stuff out that is going through your mind. Is that like the primary motivation, or do you have other motivations? Do you feel like you're a provider of a certain service also to a certain extent? Like, do you feel like you're providing your viewers something that they can't get otherwise?
I think I give a more unfiltered version of what everyone else is doing. So you'll hear other people act like they're high IQ and try to talk about stats and all this other crap. Stats that are readily available that we can all see, look up. Obviously, the biggest one was when Tinder and OkCupid came out with their stats with the 80/20 rule. I'd argue it's more like a 90-10 rule nowadays. But I was there, doing the whole trying to date, quote unquote. I did the Tinders, I did the OK Cupid, I did cold approach way back in like 2015, 2016. I quit around 2018. So I was at least in the field. I was attempting despite the backlash from women and from society. And of course this is before like Me Too and before it got so bad as it is now. So I feel like I'm at least a voice for people, especially nowadays, the people who are 20 something or like 18 to 22 ish, like that age range. I feel like I can at least talk to them and make them understand that the older generation that is telling them otherwise, as in, just go out there and do this and that and that. It's like that's fine and dandy, but in my opinion, from my point of view, there's a small window of time to go date and to go find your soulmate or whatever it is you're trying to do. And if it doesn't work out, to me, it's a waste of time. And
Okay,
so I
so
felt like I need to go out there and talk about that.
mhm. So you would say that we're probably around the same age. I think I'm 30 now. I think you just recently celebrated your 29th birthday, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you say older than us, you mean like our parents' generation, probably, right? Or
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so pretty much the Gen X and the boomers and all that shit.
So do you feel like a little bit of the rest of the space is are they also your age or more older or younger? What would you say? Would you say that
Uh,
that's your what makes you distinct the most?
I think because I was there when my peer group was around the 2018 20 or when I was doing all that stuff back in 2016 up until 2018. I was lurking on, the incel subreddit on Reddit, of course, and I found the incel forums or whatever, and I felt like it was a different time then. And I'm just going from what I remember, from what I can sort of recall, how it helped me. And I think a lot of those prominent people back then, they're not really around anymore. A lot of them got shut off or they decided to move on with their lives, which, part of me thought maybe I should have done that too, to a certain extent when I got banned. And compared to the people today, they're much younger. But the problem is they're younger, but they're a lot of them I think have more of a red pill mindset than they do a black pill mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in these
And
2 years,
people,
the red pill had a pretty big rise, right?
yeah,
Like
I remember mgtow and all that stuff.
yeah, like I'm. We can talk about that. Maybe that's also interesting to talk about. I feel like mgtow is a little bit again different to red pill. Like the things I see, like huge shows like Fresh and Fit and stuff like that. It's like that came up in the last maybe 1 year, 2 years max, right? That all of a sudden this is like everywhere and it's pretty mainstream.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel about that? That the red pill has got such a big rise? I feel like the biggest enemy of the black pill are pickup artists, and I feel like even the red pill, like in a sense, is the biggest enemy of black pill, right? Which seems
They are because
counterintuitive to mainstreamers, but
yes.
I was surprised to hear it when I first started looking into it. Is that
I,
true?
I, th- I think I think before Fresh and Fit and all these gurus, sorry, PUA types that sort of sort of kind of like on the line between red pill and black pill because they
Mm-hmm.
they understand the black pill as well. But I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to is they do talk about incels, and instead of bashing them like the mgtow did or like some of these other and I'm talking about like from the 2014 era, the red pill, that era. Most of the people in the MGTOW world were just true force loneliness, TFL. But it's a lot of, if you notice, a lot of them back then, it was a bunch of old dudes. Now you're seeing people who are just young. Like it's like almost like a 10-20 year difference. It's not the old people talking about anymore. It's really young people. And so they're gonna look at both people like Fresh and Fit, and they're gonna look at, the biggest incel black pill channels. And and that's when you kind of just call it all, it's all under the umbrella of the manosphere. So I have nothing against like Fresh and Fit, for example. I understand it, but once it starts getting into the, just go up to women crap, it like shows its true colors. It hides behind a wall because it's like it agrees with people like me, the black pill, and how women are and this and that. But then it's almost like they ignore what they just said. Like they ignore all the principles of the black pill and the warning signals of it, of especially when it comes to the dating world, and they just go right back to their pickup artist sort of lingo.
Can we say that what makes a black pillar is, for somebody who doesn't know about red pill, if we want to define black pill by our if we want to define black pill and we already know what red pill is, can we say that black pill is a red pillar that has basically said that none of the tools that the red pill is offering them is working for them? Would that be accurate?
I mean, I think that would just be somebody sort of evolving. I wouldn't call them black pill though. Black pilled is pretty much the harsh truth of reality, and that has a lot to do with your genetics. The red pill denies that. They don't acknowledge genetics as a reason, right, for why a man would get rejected, why he sucks at life, pretty much.
So,
That's the difference between the black pill is just like the Matrix times 10. You know what I mean? Whereas, red
I
pill
mean,
is kind of, it's almost safe. Red pill's very safe because it still wants to give you sort of like this positive vibe to it. But the black pill says fuck that. Has nothing to do with being positive. Has everything to just understanding where you are at life, that you cannot do anything to change it because your genetics. It's all based on your genetics.
mhm. But you would agree that like all of the things that the red pillars would say would increase your chances, basically. You would agree with that, right? Like most of the stuff. Like you would agree that a guy with like a lot of money would seem more attractive to other people, right?
Um, well, that would
Or
depend
would
because
you
you
reject
gotta.
that?
I would say you'd have to base it on who are we comparing it to. Because if you take two entities and you got one person who doesn't have a lot of money or he's
Mm-hmm.
very average, and then you got a
Mm-hmm.
person who's filthy rich, just won the lottery type of money. Um, if that person who's filthy rich is ugly as crap, and then you got the person who has no money or has very little money, very little income, and he looks like Zac Efron, Zac Efron's going to get more, um, the female attention than the rich guy, only because the rich guy isn't, unless he's like dressing rich, but anybody can dress rich and not be rich. People do that
Mm-hmm.
all the time. But my point though is there's certain levels and there's certain checklist for everything. So when you're looking from how a woman's looking at it, you can have two Zac Efrons, but if one is poor and one is rich, they're going to go for the rich guy at that point because they both look similar. It's all extra
Do do
point to
you
point.
do you really believe that this is like something that is we are able to do mathematically in the way that you are doing it? I mean, the problem with statistics is that like you have a statistic and then you can draw some conclusions about it, but once you have the individual, we're all making pretty quote unquote irrational decisions. And I guess my question would be like, the thing that we call love or falling in love, right, is like per definition something that is irrational. right? The moment it would be like a rational decision, we would stop calling it love, like per definition. So I guess my question would be: do you believe this exists, or is that just an illusion?
This thing we call love is just
Yes.
a temporary feeling of pretty much lust, temporary feeling of euphoria. But I mean, you know how it is with when you hear about marriages, the novelty of it goes away pretty much after the honeymoon. So,
Um, I have like I listened to a lot of your stuff in the preparation for this conversation, and I saw like obviously we're talking about Blackpill and a lot of negativity, and you see things very cynically generally compared to me at least. But one thing I realized that you are pretty positively talking about is children. That seems to be like the kind of the exception from everything that you've talked about. You seem to see children in a pretty positive way, which is also something that is kind of rare, I think, in your niche, in your area, in your corner of the internet. You have lots of antinatalists and stuff like that, and that's also one of the things I appreciated about you. What about love for children? Is that also an illusion? Is that also non-existent, or would you say there is an
I
exception there?
don't know. I think if you're a parent, someone who has a son or daughter, doesn't matter. No matter what, you're always, especially I'm talking about blood related mostly. I think you're always gonna love them because that's an extension of you. That's an extension of you, and I think we've lost that too.
So you
Over the
think
last like
so you think it's self-love exists, and children are like the extension of self-love in a way?
yeah, because because it's you're carrying down the genes, and I think every parent wants their kid to be better than them to a certain extent. Like you want to build that kingdom in a way. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I mean, yeah, I mean, a parent's going to sacrifice what they can so the kid can get somewhere. I mean, that's a good parent. I'm not saying all parents are like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't see myself abandoning a kid. That's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of one of the worst things possible you can
Mm-hmm.
do to it is abandon them. So
So you think, and I mean, for you, love is like a evolutionary tool, right? So that's like a tool that evolution made so we can spread our genes, right? Am I getting this correctly?
I mean, honestly, it's gonna be it. I mean, if you want to go, I'm saying if you're going away from the emotional part of it, of the like you were asking me about, can you love like two people love each other like me loving a woman? It can be one sided. I mean, I can love a woman, have a crush on her, and all this stuff, but I mean, and the only reason you love her and want to, spoon with her is to have kids. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And when you have that kid, yeah, you hope the kid grows up to be sort of like you or better, and then they kind of it's just like I said, it's a generational thing. So
Mm-hmm. I feel like you also believe in love, but you just describe it differently. But
I just
I mean,
because I
you believe
don't
in
know what
people. Sorry.
I mean, when you say love, I'm just thinking um, you would do anything to get someone's uh, love back. I guess attraction. It's attraction.
I mean,
That's
when
why
I
I'm
say
saying. Believe
love,
that I believe that you and I can love something or someone,
yeah.
but I don't always believe. The only thing I don't believe about love is it can go both ways. Sometimes I feel like it's a kind of a one way street for someone. You know what I mean?
Obviously, yeah, yeah, of course, it can be. Um, I mean, what I want to get at is basically that, like, what I think. I read a comment like under one of my videos, and I promised that I was going to address this, and I thought it would be you would be a good partner to in a conversation to address this topic. the real problem I have with the black pill is, besides that I don't agree with all of the statistics, and I think that they are misconstruing reality and stuff like that. But there's also stuff that I agree with. You know, it's not like that I completely disagree with everything, but with all the facts of the matter. But then even if I agree with one statistic that comes up, or with like, I don't know, I'm pretty short, for example, and even if I agree with like girls wanting a tall guy and blah blah blah, I mean, I have just experienced, or guys wanting big boobs, you know, like I've just experienced hands on how both I have acted completely outside of what, if somebody would ask me like, what are you into for girls, and then maybe I would say, yeah, big boobs, but none of my girlfriends had like really big boobs, you know. So, and I fell in love with her, and I would have never left her for a girl with big boobs, you know, like. So this is like, it feels like such an oversimplification, and like, even if I rationally, if you ask me something and I answer that, the moment I'm in love, I'm gonna throw all of this out of the window. And also, I feel like all of these statistics and all of this Tinder stuff and all of that flies out of the window the moment like two people see each other and have some chemistry and some connection. So that's why I feel like it's the same way when you look at like parents with their children, you know, like all of the objective. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but just one thing, maybe there has been a study like about parents, and they asked these parents, what is your favorite time that you spent in your life, and all basically like 90% answered the same. They said like, the time I spent with my kids. And then they gave them like small devices where they log their happiness over time, like once an hour. And it turned out like that the time that they spent with their kids was like the worst time out of their whole day. And like locked as a, because it was always stressful, they had to rush to work and, you know, leave them at the kindergarten and stuff like that. So does that mean that they lied before? I don't think that that's true. Like, I think they said the truth. And even though maybe in that moment they didn't feel that, at the end of the day, they still felt like it was the best time of the day. So it's like there is this, we cannot quantify some of these feelings and some of these things that happen to us. And yeah, that's why a lot of this is, to me, it's really reductionist. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think you can, like you're talking about how parents will say their best times were with their kids, but then other days, it's like, you put them in the situation, maybe they're like they're annoyed or whatever, aggravated. Um, that's that's just human nature. I mean,
Irrational,
it's
right?
yeah, it's not like I mean, this is with the relationships of any sort. If you've ever had a dog or a cat, you love your dog, but if it takes a crap on the carpet, yeah, of course you're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" You're gonna be really
Yeah.
pissed. But I mean, even with animals, domestically, I mean, animals don't even really hold a grudge, or at least they don't really hold a grudge. I mean, um, obviously with animals, is maybe it's a little weird because an animal's not gonna love you. Like it doesn't understand the concept of love. It just kind of it's gonna go up to you when it needs something. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to with animals. But when it's human to human, we can think about it. And anytime I've ever gotten angry at someone, like my brother, I usually feel bad right away. You know, like I'll say something or do something that I regret, and then it only takes me minutes to while you calm down for it's like, oh man. And then it that's the same thing when I was with my parents. Sometimes they'd apologize after some blow up or whatever. But yeah,
I
no, I
mean,
mean, I
if you
think
would
love.
ask, yeah,
I was just gonna say, I think love is conditional though, to a certain extent, just because, just taking it from me, I didn't go to college, and after that, because I decided I didn't want to go to college, my mother, she stopped talking to me.
mm-hmm.
like, we still lived in the same house, but she pretty much, like,
Mm-hmm.
disowned me. She was pissed off, and the little the all the negative things that ever happened between us was because she never forgave me,
Mm-hmm.
for just accepted that I didn't wanna do this or that, so I do think there are parents there that's why I'm saying there are bad parents. There are people who will have kids, but then they only have kids because they want the kid to be successful. If that kid's not successful, they kick them out, they disown them. It's pretty bad. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
there's exceptions, of course.
I'm definitely familiar to problems like that. I haven't had the easiest relationship with my parents in the past, and still, it's not the easiest. Um, but do you think that could also like damage your the way you see love? Like, I feel like it could damage my view. Like, if you since the relationship with your parents is such a fundamental experience with which you understand the world, it can damage your and I think you have to like question the way you see relationships in general. You can have a get a distorted view of relationships and also of love in a certain way. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah.
Um, what would be? I mean, I've seen interviews, conversations, podcasts with where people that are not incels talk to people that are incels, and I've seen a certain pattern to a certain extent. Um, Basically, people like in our constellation, me trying to either help you to get out of the state that you're in, or maybe it's not that explicit, but everything they talk about is directed to that goal, basically. Otherwise, it would not make sense. The whole conversation would not make any sense. Or it is me telling you that you live in a distorted reality and that you like that's like basically the two parts of the conversation. And I don't know, did you watch Kidology? Do you know Kidology?
Um,
She has a
my,
pretty big YouTube channel, and
yeah,
she had a conversation. She had an episode of her podcast with an incel, and I don't know if you watched it. Are you familiar? Okay.
I guess I don't know. Maybe at one, I don't know. I'm not
Mhm.
sure.
I think throughout the end, that there was the only podcast or the only thing I watched where towards the end it was just like more her being curious just about the situation of that person, and then acknowledging that there is that's just the situation of that person, no matter if there is a basis in objective reality for everyone, or like that's and um do what do you think about the general conversation? You've had conversations before, right, like this. uh
Yeah.
how do you feel about them? Because I feel like they suck. It's really not
I
satisfactory.
I think, well, I had a real interview with some British um, company, whatever. That was back a year ago, 2 years
Hmm.
ago now. It's on YouTube. It was an incel documentary, and I was in it, but I was only in there for like 5 minutes. I
Hmm.
talked to the lady for 2.5 hours,
Hmm.
so they cut out a lot of.
Hmm.
The way I look at it is it's pretty much like that, except less professional, I guess.
Hmm.
As in, they're gonna distort your views and what you actually mean by whatever. I'm somebody who likes to use a lot of metaphors and all that crap. I'm very hyperbolic about things, but people take it very seriously. So, if you say, I can't wait until I'm so and so age, and then I'm going to kick the chair, or so and so,
Yeah, let's
you
not
know,
let's not go there.
make
Let's
me,
not talk about stuff like that. Yeah.
or
It's
that you
not
can
yeah.
go get hit by a truck. It's that type of
Yeah.
stuff people did really. I think depending on who I'm talking to, it can either be a good conversation or a bad conversation. But I think it also is if they're normies, if they're not an incel and they're just a normie, they already have bad intentions. They already look at you as the bad guy anyway,
Mhm.
because they don't expect much from you. They expect you to be this disgusting, vile creature.
Mhm. You feel
You know,
yeah.
whereas I'm indifferent. They could be scared of you, and I'm just indifferent. I'm just like,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say what I want, and then if they don't like it and they think I'm hostile or this or that, I'm just gonna be like, "Well, you came into the interview hostile toward me, so it's
Mhm.
so."
I think we really have to work on rewarding people for not acting out basically when they're suffering. I feel like societally we like the biggest attention that people that are talking about men's problems that they get is when it's about like misogyny or something like that. And don't get me wrong, like I think that a lot of the shit that you guys or also the red pillars are saying is pretty misogynistic. I'm pretty. I would say I'm pretty left leaning. I'm pretty progressive guy. Not unreasonably, but there is some stuff where I would say it's. I wouldn't consider inceldom or blackpilledness by definition misogynistic. Not at all. It. I think there's a lot of people that are not misogynistic at all, but there is some like I feel like we're mostly seeing the guys that are misogynistic and that are saying like outlandish stuff like I don't know, women shouldn't vote or something like that, like or like just some random stupid shit, like I don't know, state mandated girlfriends or something like that, like and we're giving a lot of like societally and also from a media perspective, these people get a lot of attention and that really bothers me. I would much more preferred, and I think because that's the majority, the people that are just suffering in silence and are just like that's the people we should listen to, and that's the people we should talk to, and so I guess that's the reason why the conversations can be so hostile by nature because they started off with the wrong reason, right? So if I don't want to talk, yeah, that's just not something that I think we should do. Um, do you feel like you have a responsibility for the image of this community? Do you care about that at all?
Not at all, because I did it for myself, in the first place, and that's why I could care less if I had 20 subscribers or if I had 1,000. I don't care. It's for myself.
Do
Um,
do you try
I'm I'm
to?
I'm not big enough for my views or whatever to get out there and become anything more than just, you know, that basement dweller talking in his basement, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not popular, so, like,
I mean, you have
I think
people
I
that
think
look up to you, right?
if I was, like, face LMS and I have, like, 100,000 subscribers, that's a completely different situation.
I mean, but okay, but do you have like? I mean, generally, if we talk about like an oppressed group, like let's say, okay, incels are an oppressed group, right? Like you maybe might have like anger towards the rest of society, but don't you have like compassion and I don't know love for the people that are suffering from the same things as you in a way,
Of
or do
course,
you
of
do you,
course,
yeah?
of course, it's just when certain ideologies get in the way because somebody can be a virgin just like me, but then they're a feminist or they're this and that, and they, you know, they're pro women pretty much. They're pro equality, which I'm not.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm not going to get along with that person.
But yeah.
This isn't an incel quote unquote. I would call them a fake cell
Oh,
before I'd
really?
ever call. Yeah,
So
because if you believe in women's rights and you believe that women are just as capable and all this other crap, and you believe that women can speak for men and all this stuff, which
mhm.
women do, they speak for men.
I mean, they obviously
Many times.
can
Well, but
because they do.
my point is, if
Yeah.
you think females are our ally, then we're not compatible as
Okay,
we can't
so
be.
that's interesting. So so you don't see that. So what is that person? Because you know what, the thing is, like, when I talk to people that are not incels and they have nothing to do with the topic, they say the same thing as you, and then tell them, no, that's not true. Incel is not a political ideology. Incel is something from which people suffer by definition, and it has nothing that person can be misogynistic, that person can be a feminist, it can be everything. So I always talk about, now you say the same thing as the people. So
No,
how do we
uh,
reconcile
well, I don't
this?
know what normies are you talking about that
Just
would
regular
agree.
people that have nothing to do with the topic.
Most people most people are on women's side. Most people, men and women, are feminists.
Yes.
The only people who are anti-feminist are the fake grifters that you'll hear on the conservative side. You know, the females that are all like the commentators, who will say they're anti-feminist, guys who will say they're anti-feminist, but they're not. They're all pro-feminist. I'm talking
Yes.
about legit and anti-feminists like myself.
But how
Is
do we,
very small and few.
what do we call the people that are involuntarily celibate and are feminists, for example? What do we call them? Like,
And call them fake cells.
but they are incels, right? They're suffering from the same. Like, maybe then we need a new word. I don't know, because like,
No, because incel. This is the problem. Is before I would say COVID caused a lot of this because you have a lot of normies now coming into the incel space, and they have their ideologies already intact. And these are the grifters. These are the posers. They come in and they pretend that they're incel because I lost my girlfriend 6 months ago. That is what people
no, no,
think an
no,
incel
no,
is.
no, no. We're not talking about those. We really genuinely talking about
These are
someone
normies. These are
who
normies that
has.
believe that agree with you is what I'm saying.
I agree with you. You're right. Like, there is a lot of people that just come into the space to, for everybody to tell them how good looking they are, and that, that I definitely agree with you. But I want to know, like, what do we do with the people that are really, like, genuinely, they have the same problem as you? Like, I don't know, it could be for different reasons maybe, but they have the same problem, they have the same condition, let's say, and but they're politically completely in the opposite direction.
But you don't
It's
have to be right wing or left wing. I don't care about I actually don't really care in
okay.
that sense because to be fair, the right hates incels just as much as the left. They're just not as
Yeah,
vocal about.
yeah,
They're just not
yeah,
vocal.
yeah, yeah.
So I understand. So I don't really care where the person comes from. It's as soon as they start acting like we're all equal and we're all this or that, and a lot of them reject the black pill because not everybody who's black pill is an incel, not everyone who's an incel is black pill.
Exactly, exactly. So
But
maybe we
but
can do
in
a
my
distinction there. Maybe we can say
but
he's
the
not black
not
pill,
really,
but he's an incel.
but in actual but I'm saying like what it comes down to is when you become an incel, you're going to become black pilled because of well, especially if you're going to go on the forums and watch videos because that's what these kids are going to do. These 18-year-olds are going to come on YouTube or TikTok or whatever it is, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to hear someone who's older talking about the black pill. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times that gets related to the incel thing. And then that's why they kind of go hand to hand. You got incel and black pill. But I mean, you can be incel and red pill, I guess. But,
Yeah,
most,
right.
but the problem is the people who,
Looksmaxxers.
right. But the people who still think they have a chance have more of a red pill mindset than a
Yeah,
black pill
yeah.
mindset.
But
So, I mean, it is what it is.
yeah, I'm looking for a word that is like the least uh exclude, like that is excluding the least amount of people, where I would say it makes still sense to put them in one group. Like, if Like I would prefer the term incel to be used merely as a description for a
Right. Like an
for
umbrella,
something that people are suffering from.
like an umbrella term.
Yeah, yeah,
I was gonna say, if you want to call people who are actually incel like myself, then we call ourselves true cells. That's
yeah,
very
yeah,
specific.
yeah. But I mean, like true cells, like there will be, yeah. That's
Then
a
again,
difficult one.
I
Yeah.
I call myself dark cell for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I that's why I don't really believe I'm the same as most incels, just because I don't think they have the nerve to be as unfiltered as I am. They're not as willing to go deep down the rabbit hole about a lot of things because it's not just about women; it's about society in general. That's what the dark pill, the dark cell is all about. Is how brutal and disgusting this world really is.
Mm-hmm. That's cool that you go there, because one of my questions would be, what changes would you like to see in society, like very broadly? Like I don't want to have like uh XY legislation, blah blah blah, and this party and this politician. Like very broadly, like what would you like to see in society? Would you like to see a return to, I don't know, 50 years ago, 60 years, 100 years ago, or
I'll say yeah. I'd say human decency. Human decency, just that needs to come back. I think that's completely dead right now. I think
I
people are a
think I
lot more
need
self.
more. I think I need more than that. What can you be more specific?
Right, right. So I think people need to be more sensitive along with each other, like just understand each other. Especially men need that. I think the fact that men are required to keep their mouths shut, despite us living in this feminist world that we live in, especially in America, we're still told as a man that to pretty much shut up and don't share your thoughts, don't share your feelings or anything about anything. And I'm not saying let's all be like soy boys. I'm just saying like I think we need to treat each. If you want to know the true definition of egalitarianism, equality in general, then you treat men and women that like they're literally like exactly the same. Obviously, that's not palatable with this the way it actually is. That's just more of a dream. That's not more of a
Would you
um
like that?
uh I think it was better when men and women just knew each other's roles, to be honest.
So probably a society
I don't
like
think you
50, 60
you
years
can't fight
ago.
biology. You can't fight evolution and biology. So that's just always that's gonna be there. If I punch a woman, I could kill her. You know what I mean? Like she punches me, she could break her hand. My point is there's a complete difference between how we are.
I mean, yeah,
I'm
but
more
there'll be
aggressive
true
nature, I'm more
for that'll be true for you and a really big muscular guy as well. Like, what does that tell us about how the rights that you have, or like I don't think it does, right? Does tell us anything.
I'm just talking about men and women. I mean, but it depend you're just talking about like you're getting out of like the stereotypes of men and women and all this stuff, and we're just talking about how humans are. If we just treat I guess if we were acting like it was just, humans were just everyone is just a number and nobody has um anything really unique about them and we don't even look at gender or any of that. I mean, I don't see that as possible. I don't know. I mean, like I said, human decency. I just mean people need to understand each other more. I think incels need to be understood. Um, I don't give a crap about the female angle because literally this whole world is based on what the female feels and what how to help her out. And so I mean, this is about men, really, at the end of the day. Kind of go. I think we just need that old school. Yeah, like 1950s. I guess was peak, pretty peak. So.
So you would say that if you would live at that time, like it would just be fine.
I mean, I'd rather live in the medieval
Mm-hmm.
times, but I think if you just allowed like back in the medieval times and all those, just
Mhm.
the Renaissance and stuff. Incels, you know what incels did? They went to the brothel, the local brothel down the street, because
Yeah, I heard
brothels will ever.
your opinions about brothels. You basically said, wait, before we go there, remind me that we go there if I forget it. But I don't agree with the notion that feminism has destroyed. Like, if I understand you correctly, that the reason why there is incels is because of the breakup of the strict monogamy, right? And from that, inceldom is a consequence. Correct? Can
I think inceldom is a consequence of, well, diminishing men's rights to sex, but women can do whatever they want. The sexual liberation that feminism allowed
But men never
only
had a
helped.
right to sex.
Oh, no, sexual liberation, which only gives women the right and the gays rights to just do whatever they want. Men are not allowed to be promiscuous. The only ones that are doing that are like the top percent. So it doesn't even, the
Wait,
majority of men can't just go out and go have sex, not
why not?
legally.
Why? Like,
Because well, if you're going to go down that road, hypergamy. Women
no,
don't if they're
wait.
gonna sleep with the same types of men. They're not going to sleep with someone like me or the dude down the street who lives with his parents. You know what I mean?
Wait. Before we go there, so would you agree that in the, I mean, men never had the right to sex. Like they just,
I think what I
the,
meant right. I'm saying it was more the access. I should say the
I mean, there
access
was
was a lot.
monogamy.
Right.
Like you can still observe it in many countries, like in third world countries a lot. Like you just everyone in a certain geographical area gets married, and so they all go basically off the market. The remaining people just get married with each other, and then almost no one stays alone. Like basically, that 95% uh, get married. So, and that is not the case anymore in modern society, right? That's like, I think we should agree on that, right?
But no, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
but
Most people are not getting married anymore. So I
yes,
mean, it's
yes, and even the ones that are also getting divorced. So that's also putting them back in the market, right? But I don't see how feminism did that, because it it might have caused it, but feminism, like the equality between men and women,
women's
also
stand.
the,
The standards of women have gone up because of feminism. Once women were able to get jobs and do all this and that, they were independent, quote unquote. Um, because of that, they don't need a man. And most women only got married because the guy had money
okay.
or he had to provide. He provided.
This is
So
a
like nowadays, the only reason people get married is because it sounds cool. It's like it's not even based on an actual like. It's not like love. It's not based on love, quote unquote, like we were talking about. It has all to do with financial stability.
Do you believe that there was a time before? I mean, this is a little bit of a contentious point. I'm gonna do some more research on it, but do you believe that there was a time before monogamy for human beings?
Oh no, I think we had to create monogamy because we realized that if we were just going around screwing like animals and not caring one way or the other, that society would collapse
Yeah.
because nobody would take any responsibility. So I think we've always been polygamous.
So, and I mean, probably, I'm not sure about this, but maybe you can, just for the sake of the conversation, the way I understood it is that before monogamy, we were living in a society where men were having multiple women, but not the other way around, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. The
but there was
top
there was
percent.
not even a glimpse of feminism uh, at that time, and I feel like we are, if like all of the this idea of 80/20 blah 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 and all of this stuff, like all of this polygamous, if that's we then we are like basically going back to a more natural state that we had before, and I don't think it has anything to do with feminism, even if I agree with all of the things you say. And I'm not sure if I do. I don't think I do, but even if I do, I think it has nothing to do with feminism.
You're talking about way, way back in the day.
Yeah.
Obviously, we I mean, I would call that more of a because well, one, we were much less civilized. I'll say that. I don't think even we really had laws. We just did whatever we wanted to a certain extent. The only people that were upholding or like demanding the law were people dictators. Those are people that you would get killed. I mean, if
I
you're
think that
someone
was
like
even
me,
before dictators.
yeah.
I think
Well,
there
I
was
would have
like,
been no, I would have been I would, but it would have been based on a hierarchy. Because every society's had a hierarchy. If you're the
yeah,
big dude and you're
yeah.
good looking and you can beat the crap out of, just about every dude around you, you pretty much claimed the woman. I mean, back then, you just took a woman and claimed her. So, and if
So you
eventually a
don't
bunch
think
of dudes,
there was a selection by women as well? I mean, there is in animals, right?
I'm
They don't
sure
have
there
any
are.
rules.
I'm sure the women they would if it was the right type of dude who wanted them, then it's like it works out. So they're gonna put up with the guy cheat. He's gonna cheat because he can, because there was no real law against it. I mean, if the biggest caveman is getting the cave women,
Yeah, but
and all the other cavemen are suffering, eventually there's gonna be a revolt. Those guys are gonna go off the main alpha. Get enough betas, they're gonna take down the alpha. So I mean, that happened plenty
I
of times
heard
back.
I lately I heard a really funny, interesting argument against the whole nofap movement. I don't know if you're familiar, but there was basically this guy. He had found a statistic that in pre like prehistoric times, a lot of the men that were not able to get sex were basically their main way of having sexuality was like masturbating to the other males having sex, and so it was a pretty normal thing to basically watch
Yeah.
porn, quote unquote. But what I want to say is that I don't see the
How about
direct
this?
correlation between breaking up monogamy and going back to a polygamous society and feminism. I don't see the relationship. Like, I don't see the connection.
We just do it differently. We do it differently. See, this it's not the same as thousands of years ago or however many years ago we're talking. We're talking like down to here at 2024. If you just give everyone the freedom to do whatever they want without any repercussions, um, and you tell God, but at the same time, you're socially shaming dudes for not having sex and being like being people like me, right? If you shame them long enough, they're gonna. That's when and that's why I was talking about the revolt. Eventually, there would be a revolt, but which I guess you could say right now that's happening. But feminism definitely has a lot to do with it because they're the ones that gave women, mostly, by the way, feminists. When I say feminists, I mean both men and women.
Yeah, yeah.
And most of the people giving the women the rights to vote in the first place was actually a bunch of dudes, and it was a political decision. It was so and also let me add with the feminism, it's not just the dating market they destroyed. Um, Society as a whole, where it comes to entertainment or all the civil rights groups that came around, all the gays coming out of the closet, all this stuff, and the rise in degeneracy is all because of feminism. Because women
Wait.
are all about freedom, as in a very naive way. They don't think of repercussions. Women are all about the present. They want it right now. Whereas men look at the past and the future. That's why most men look in the future. It's like this isn't sustainable for have a bunch of women, and it's that harem thing that you were talking about. The top percent dudes having a bunch of women. If that's just how the rest of society is going to go, you're going to lose all those people that run your society. So eventually,
But
society is not going to
I
take
don't. You have not convinced me yet on the connection between that being feminism, because it seems like we both agree that the nature of human beings is to not have monogamous, like that the monogamy is being basically forced by religion, societal norms, what's like better, but like actually it's like dieting, right? Like Like you
Feminism
actually
wants polygamy.
wait 1 second. Like you actually want to eat something, but you prevent yourself from doing it because you don't want to gain weight or something like that, right? Like and that's how you also explained to me monogamy. So that that suppression of what we actually want to do, which is like fuck around, right? That suppression seems like the unnatural thing, and we both seem to agree on that. And so feminism is not necessary for that to be unleashed. Like the disappearance of religion is like the main reason why we stopped the marriage. Like why monogamy basically died off.
No, actually, religion kept us straight and narrow. It was actually once the sort of the more, they call them liberals, but whatever, that world. Once they were like, well, screw religion, screw morality, pretty much everyone, we should just go around screwing around. Feminism agreed with that. That's why feminism is
True.
mostly a left wing ideology.
That might be,
Um,
yeah. But
right wingers and to a certain extent libertarians actually believe in monogamy because that's how you keep a society together. Once you just let everyone do what they want, you're not going to have a stable society. We're seeing this right now. The society's breaking down because people are just doing what they want. And
I
there is
mean,
no loyalty either. Marriage was at least a loyalty. And also, marriage used to be a religious thing. It is no longer about religion. It's all based on the government. So that's a completely, we're talking about two different types of marriage. Most people get married once again because it's not to raise kids or any of that. They just
yeah,
want
but
the abundance of financial stability from the government.
yeah, but the reason why people get divorced, like wouldn't get divorced before, even if they wanted to, was because of religion, right? And the reason why everybody had to get married was also because of religion. Like that's like marriage is in its and you see like from the moment religion went away, the whole governmental marriage didn't play any role anymore. Like that's like it's even if you get tax breaks, people get divorced, right? So yeah, I don't see that as a fact. I mean, also like the generation of the generation of our parents, these feminists, for example, they were pretty monogamous still. Like culturally, they were just like really really monogamous people. I think maybe not in the
No,
U.S.
people.
Maybe I have a, but I think like the first generation feminists were pretty monogamous, right?
I think they still had sort of that because my grandmother was still a feminist, but she
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
She doesn't. I mean, she doesn't believe in the way the world is now. I mean, obviously
Hmm.
because she's much older, but I mean that's a to old feminists. It really was the right to vote and to have a voice. I
Hmm.
mean that's and to own their own property, even though they could own their own property before feminism. Um, Women just wanted to sort of be in the same level. That's a lot different than second, third, and fourth wave feminism, which has just completely ruined both men and women. So, um, but yeah, no, I mean, if you're talking about first generation, where that's completely different than fourth. But I mean, you take an inch, they take a mile. That's how feminists are. So once you give them something, they just want to take everything.
Yeah, I don't have to say that I disagree. I mean, I disagree. Like politically, we are really, really complete opposite sides. I think, but I think we can still have agreements on other things. Um, yeah, we're going to talk about brothels. One thing that I really, really like was really counterintuitive to me was that you said that if brothels were legal in the US, there would be no incels. Did I
I would say
understand that
there it'd be
correctly?
less it would be less of a problem.
Okay, because
Not that there
okay,
would be 0. It's not that there would be 0 because that's impossible.
okay, then I misunderstood you completely because I felt like you said that if you're able to go to a brothel, you're not an incel anymore. But then I
I
just
mean, if you
misunderstood
have
that,
the
right?
access, I mean, it depends on the definition that you're going by. Some people think it has to do with relationships as well. If you're
Mm-hmm.
just talking about not being a virgin, then maybe you can get it out of the way, and so maybe it'll make you a little more nonchalant, a little more laid back about it, not as angry. Because I think a lot of incels are angry because they just haven't had the physical attention yet. And I think once you get the physicality out of the way, yeah, that's when the emotional stuff. I'm talking about they're the two
Mm-hmm.
separate entities. And obviously, if you just get with a prostitute, that's you're just getting the physical. You're not getting the emotional attachment. So it all depends what you're asking relationship wise. Then most people, guys may just end up just being incel, quote unquote, because they're not in relationships. But as a virgin, you wouldn't be that anymore. Wouldn't have to worry about that problem.
Hmm.
So
Like that's, yeah, I don't agree with that at all. But you don't have a clear stance on it either. You say like there is this definition, there is this definition, right? But I mean, from my perspective, it is pretty obvious. Like I don't think that inceldom and I've said it in a video before, like my last interview. I said that I don't think that like incels are the least after sex. I think they're less after sex than the rest of society. I feel like it's way more about having a human to human relationship and about validation uh, and I have my reasons for believing that. And I mean, one of the things that I observe is that there is um, a repression of sexuality with incels a lot. Like I see that a lot in the incel community. That I mean, when you talk with guys, like when you talk with guys that are not incels, like all of them will tell you that like they have had a time where they couldn't get laid and their desire for sexuality, like physical sexuality, has risen and risen, and they have slept with a woman that they would otherwise not find attractive. So their level of finding a woman attractive was like going really really high. And I don't feel like I see that to the extent I should see it with incels at all. Like, and also
you're
I
talking
don't.
about you're talking about the attraction of the woman, like the what would makes an incel want to. You're saying somebody who doesn't get sex
Yeah,
is going to just eventually once the even if it's a fat chick,
yeah.
even though he doesn't want to screw her, he's going to because of sexual frustration. Is that what you're saying?
No, he's going to want at some point. He's going to find her every day. He's going to find her more and more attractive.
Yeah, but because you're becoming a little more
It's not even
it's
like
that
frustration.
frustration.
Like he would genuinely find her way more beautiful than he would find her before.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Like,
yeah.
and
I mean,
yeah, and also
it's practically it's like being drunk off your own sexual frustration. Because when you're drunk, you're low and hip, and when you're low and hip as well with women, then you're just gonna screw an animal.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but people have
Well,
gone that far. Like, and even like
land whales.
pe-
Land whales, females.
people like yeah, like people go through the craziest lengths just to be like sexually satisfied, right? And I don't see that crazy effort. I don't see incels doing that crazy effort just for sex. So that's why I feel like it's not about sex. Like it's more about the validation of
I
society.
agree. I agree, but I think you gotta understand you're talking about mostly the ones who are really into the sex thing are the younger guys. The ones who are a little older, like my age rise, I'd agree. We're more about the relationship, you know, we want more of that uh, intimacy with the emotions, I guess. At the end of the day, that's you want somebody to care about you, so it's not just a physical, but
Yeah,
I agree. But I'm saying if you're talking about young guys like 18, 20, they're mostly thinking about sex.
I feel like they're less in touch with their like they're less.
It's immaturity.
Yeah, it's
You just want
but
sex, you're
I
immature.
I, I think they're, yeah, might be. I mean anxiety plays a big role, right? Like
Yeah.
anxiety has a big effect on your libido, right? On your sexual
That's
desires.
why but that's why I was saying with the brothels, the only thing that it would help is getting taken away. Get sorry, the physical part is out of the way now because if you're 18 and you can just go in there and screw a hooker, you get out of the way, you don't have to worry about having to deal with your crush as much. Now you can look at her as someone maybe you want a relationship with, but now the sex part you've already dealt with. It's not, I mean, sure, you're gonna probably want to still have sex with her, of course, but it's not as a big deal because you've had the experience. But if you never have experience and you're still waiting and you're still getting rejected and this and that, I mean, depending on the incel, you don't know how deprived somebody's going to become based on experience. So,
Don't
and
you
I think
think?
brothels help with experience.
But do you really think that would like solve any? Like, we both agreed that that's not what's. I mean, I don't. I just don't have the feeling like
But it's the
that would
young
be a
thing though. We're
good.
talking about
So come again.
young incels need it.
So you would
Need
just
that
say for a
relief.
young incel, like a 20-year-old incel, you would say that if if he just goes to a brothel, like that would make his life way easier. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because back then, back in the medieval times, the kings would go and get a hooker for their sons and just get it out of the way, and then that son becomes more confident. It's early on because
I mean,
you got more important things to deal with.
we
You know
don't
what I
even
mean?
have to
Like,
go that we don't even have to go back that far. Like in many cultures, it's still pretty common that like an uncle or the father takes his son to go to see a prostitute. um I don't think that's really
it
advisable. I
gets
think
out of the way.
it's I think it can be. I have my doubts. Like I have big doubts about how healthy that is. I think that's, yeah, I don't think that's a solution. Um
Okay.
but we don't have to agree on that part. I do you don't you think like we don't you think the incel community should be more vocal about this whole thing being about emotional being an emotional thing rather than a sexual thing? And I feel like the rest of society would have way more understanding and way more empathy if they would understand this simple point that it is more about being a social outcast and also about the pressure that society exercises on incels for not having a romantic partner, and also
I don't think
about
it would,
validation.
I don't think it would matter if incels came together and decided to make some sort of activist campaign about wanting emotional intimacy from females. Is then at that point you might as well just because society doesn't care about men's problems, so that doesn't really matter. And what it doesn't matter if we're talking about sex or not sex, or it doesn't matter if it's even about incel. Anytime men do anything in any
Mhm.
sort of um, have any sort of activism, it's seen as a joke because
Mhm.
men own everything and we can do whatever we want and
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
privileged and all this crap. Which, by the
Actu-
way, feminists
it's
believe that,
funny.
and they
Yeah, it's funny that you say
and
that because feminists like actually like people say like people really I agree with you, like men's problems have a very very low priority in society, right? But I don't think that's because of feminists. I feel like that's because the feminists or because society is still not feminist enough, because they're not egalitarian enough to care about men's feeling. And I feel like that's changing right now. From slowly but surely, I feel like feminists have
feminism was
also
never about
thought
uh,
more
uh,
about, like they realize that it's in contradiction to shame men for their feelings and at the same time talking about toxic masculinity, right? So I feel like if we just go a little bit further and we get a more ripe and a more developed form of egalitarianism between the genders, the men's issues will have a bigger place in society. At least if we look at
not
ideal.
not because of feminism.
Why not? If we just take our own definition of feminism, which is like, right, if we just take the definition of your grandmother, having an equality between genders, like complete equality, wouldn't that mean that your problems would be as valuable as the ones of women, like emotional problems of women?
No.
Why
I mean,
not?
I don't. It's what just because I mean, I'm using just my grandmother just because that's like the only um sort of standard I can think of. Since I mean, it's not like I've talked to many older women like that, but what I've noticed even with my grandmother, someone who would have came from that mold of society, that progressive side, the beginning of that stuff. She agrees with all the feminism today. I mean, she just does. And what I've noticed with women in general is it doesn't matter how old they are, how young they are, they're easily manipulated.
Forget about that example. I just made it so you have something to read. But if you just take like feminism at face value, like if you just take it like as an ideology where we say, okay, it's just equality between men and women. In the way we treat people. We treat people the exact same way, no matter if they're men or women. Wouldn't that automatically mean that if you have a problem, it will get the same attention as the problem that a woman has?
No, not at all.
In
Because
theory, man, come on, like in theory.
no, because
Wait, how in theory you cannot yeah, please explain to me how in theory that's not following directly.
you're going by definition of feminist. Feminism was always bad. It was about female supremacy, and that's what it was always about. The
Yeah,
people who
but I
use it
don't.
as an egalitarian crutch, why would you need to be calling it feminism when you can just call it egalitarianism or humanism or something else?
Okay, let's call it
Um,
egalitarianism.
okay, but feminism, by
Equality of
definition,
gender,
is
gender
really about
equality.
women. No, it's about how women can get up to the equality of men. Now it's become supremacy. That's what it is. So it
Okay,
doesn't
let's
really
call
matter
it
what we.
let's call it gender equality. Are you in favor of you like gender equality would basically solve the problem of men's problem not being heard in society, right?
Yeah, but then I mean, this is like oh man. So if everyone is special or not special, and we're exactly all the same, then what's the point of funding and activism and all this other crap if we're exactly the same?
We don't need it anymore. There would be no point.
That's
Wouldn't
and
that be
you're
such a bad thing?
talking about some weird utopia. It's like we're also not having sex and anything else, right? It's just
No,
all
we
going to
do.
be like.
We do. How
I mean,
what kind of a
I think you'd love Judgment Day, Terminator Judgment, Day type of thing, where all the robots take over,
no,
all the
but
machines take over.
all kidding aside, like let's say one day you have a daughter and a son and they both have some emotional problems, right? And wouldn't you like treat their emotional problems with maybe not you wouldn't maybe have the same reaction to it or you wouldn't maybe but as a emotion like as a value to you as a parent like the value of the pain that your children are feeling should be the same, right? That's you would believe that, right?
Sure, I mean, sure, a boy and a girl can cry, but it could be for completely two different trivial things. If the girl's crying because her favorite show isn't on or
No, we're
something like
talking
that,
about
I
we're not
I
talking
understand
about
you're
the
saying
outside
the
reasons for it. We're
equality of
talking about the value of the pain, like the value of the
no,
pain
how
that
do
you
you
are
feel?
feeling as an incel doesn't have the same value like that another member of society has, like for example a woman has about something else that is also like the same amount of pain, let's say, but it's not being treated in the same way. We agree on that. Like I also agree in that. I think that men's problems are not valued enough. Like men's pain is not valued enough. And I think that's something that is remaining from old times where men have to be strong and men don't have feelings and men don't have emotions and stuff like that. I feel like the feminists that are now dismissing men's problems are doing that because they're still stuck in the old image of men where men have to be strong. I mean, even the way they're dealing with men's problems is like coming from a place of the old gender roles, right? Like,
Well, yeah, because they want to eat their cake and eat it, have their cake and eat it too. Women want it both ways. So it works out for them that men are treated badly. I mean, it's great for them.
I
So
mean,
when they
but I
see
think
incels,
they start
they look
realizing
at
it
it as you
now.
they look at it as men deserve it, like they deserve suffering. Women universally all believe this. They don't care about men's problems one way or another. if it doesn't work out for them, if it doesn't like give them any positive reinforcement, it doesn't give them any sort of if it's not about them, if that's what women are all about, it's all about them. So if something passes or there's some sort of new thing like with men, women usually trash it because it's a misogyny, just because it's for men. Women don't like it. As long as it's not about them, it's bad. It's misogyny. It's whatever word you can use, buzzword you can use, they'll use it. Because females have power, like so much power compared to men. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't really even see the point of the seeing the uh this fantasy world that you're talking about of men and women aren't men and women anymore, and we're
No, I'm
just
not
I
saying
guess
there
piece.
aren't men and women anymore. I'm just saying that their feelings are valued in the same way.
It's
I
just
think that
not
would be a
going to
good
be.
world. I think that would be a good world to live in.
Women are more emotional. Guys are not. Most guys would rather keep things to themselves. They
I
wouldn't be
don't.
men if they didn't just if they just let everything out constantly. They wouldn't be men. They wouldn't be masculine. They wouldn't have that that firepower, especially for like conflict. Men settle the conflict. Women can't handle it. That's why
Okay,
men and
wait.
women are like very
First of
different.
all, first of all, that's we have to
Women
make a
are emotional.
distinction between expression of emotion and emotion, right? So I don't think that you would say that like what you're saying is basically that men are more emotionally regulated in a sense that they can suppress their emotions better, right? Is that what you mean? Yeah. So like they're already we could not say that they're more emotional, but even if we say that they're you claim that they're better regulated, I don't think they really are. I mean, look at all the violent crime and look at all the outbursts of violence, which is a form of emotional dysregulation. Women have that way less. I don't think we can make these generalizations.
No, you're right about that. No, you're right about that. The reason men do that is because that's their way of expressing their emotion. I'm not saying it's healthy, by the way. I'm just saying that
Mm-hmm.
that's just going to happen, and I don't think you can really change that. I went to therapy like 3 times in my life. The only thing that taught me was actually the opposite of what it's trying to do, and let's be an emotional little bitch and just let people know about your crap. And then I realized it was just for manipulation because my mom just wanted me to spill my guts. And then when I did spill my guts and her name came up, like as like a lot of blaming type of things, she couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle it. So it's like, oh, you're a misogynist, you're this and that. And the way I looked at it
Because
is like, well, this is why you keep a lot of stuff to yourself. You don't just go around telling the truth and how you actually feel. And
Mhm.
men know this. Men know there are consequences for how you react to things. And women, and by the way, the majority of therapy and all that is like feminist crap. That's like women crap because it's all about emotion. And women are allowed to talk to each other about this stuff. But then once they put the man in there, it's like if the man tells people how it is, it usually gets a bad result. As the difference between how a man goes through life and a woman goes through life are completely different. And so a man's ability to talk about his emotions, it's gonna be pretty it usually has a negative consequence to it. Whereas women can just say whatever they want all the time without any consequence. So I mean I had to I keep stuff to myself, and actually I became a better person because I learned how to just control myself in that aspect. Not just go around telling people about my crap like women do. It's like men are just can't be like women. It's the bad. It's not. It doesn't make you look good. It makes you look mentally emotionally is just negative. Nobody likes to see that.
if you don't want to talk about this, we don't have to, but isn't that what you do? Like, isn't the whole reason why we're talking is because you do this on YouTube and you feel like you have some benefit from talking about the stuff that is like um in your mind, and to you get a relief from it by talking to other people about it, like. And
Men talking to other men is different than man talking to. a female therapist. So it's a bit different.
Yeah, but you still, I mean, I've never been to therapy, but I feel like a lot of relief when I talk about my problems with my friends, like and to just like sometimes just talking about it sometimes can give you big relief, right? Like you would agree with that, right?
Yeah, of course. But it's, I
And
mean,
so you believe in the healing power of talking about something, because sometimes talking can also help you understand. Like that's the reason why, partly why I do this, because it's a way of understanding the world around me, is talking about it. I might sound like I'm a know-it-all and I try to just like brag with something that I think is a good thought, but um, it mainly helps me also think about stuff. And I think that's for everybody. It's like that. So I don't think you should dismiss therapy just because you've had bad experiences. In my really close proximity, I have had a friend who has had really, really, really bad experience with therapists, and that made me like hate this whole concept of psychotherapy for years. And like just it took me like really 3 to 4 or 5 years to get over that and to objectively look at it again, and look at it from a more scientific perspective, even though it's a soft science, but still there is a scientific basis to it. I think you should not dismiss it, man. Like it can really help people out.
I mean, it helps women out. It doesn't help men out. I think men work better when they have groups. Like you said, why would you go to therapists if you have friends? Why would you go to a therapist? Why would you spend all this money and time wasting
I
and
I
if,
because
making a YouTube channel and just talk about it with amongst your male peers?
mhm.
I mean, that's better to me. That is better for my mental state than talking to some feminist at some therapy session that's costing me like $300-400 a
Yeah,
session.
that's really. I mean, I'm really really shocked that first world country like the US, that you have to pay
Yeah.
like 300 400 dollars for to get it. I mean, here I'm in Europe, and here it's really difficult to get a good therapist and to get a place. You sometimes wait for a very long time, but then you get one and you don't have to pay it privately, so you don't have to worry about where to get the money from, which is like, I don't know, it's crazy, it's insane. Um, but I would say like the big difference for me, and I've had my issues myself with stuff, and the maybe until now I have not felt like I want to. It was not bad enough for me to go, but at some point, if I feel like I'm not progressing and it's not going anywhere, I definitely will go, like 100%. And let me tell you why. Because um, even if it helps to talk to friends, I think you need a more general, abstract understanding of what you're saying, which can be difficult when the people that you know are when you're talking to the people that you know, and also you always feel like you're being like, even if they say it's all right and blah blah blah, it still feels like a little bit of a burden, and like you're being a burden to somebody else. And as a therapist, you don't have that with a therapist, and I think that's a big one, to be able to open up to someone.
Well,
um
so if we're talking about generally a therapist, it depends why you're going to that therapist. The only reason I went was the first time I ever went to a therapist. The only reason I did that was 12 years old. My father had died, and a lot of other things had happened in my family. So the way my mom looked at it is just pushed me into therapy. Didn't ask me, of course, no consent. Just push you in there. You don't know why you're there, but I think if it's for I think it's for like if you're stressed out, maybe you work all the time and you're stressed out. Maybe you're like, a lot of people go to therapy for that because they can't handle the working. They can't handle their life or whatever for that sense. But they can still have girlfriends and friends. I'm saying these are to me therapy is very very much for like normies. And when it comes to like the incel, if it's about inceldom, I think it makes more sense to talk about to your fellow incel who can actually understand, and you guys can go back and forth, which is why I love the forums. That's why I like to mingle when I can with other incels. But if you're talking about talking to a normie about your problems, they don't care because they don't think sex or relationships are very important. So, and especially a therapist, they're not going to care,
They're
especially the
gonna
female
if
therapist.
they're good therapists, they're gonna care. And if they don't, you would have to switch until you get a good one. Like really, I can promise you, like if a therapist doesn't believe that this is a big deal for anyone, then they're not just not a good therapist. And I'm pretty sure that most therapists will understand this. In the US, I feel like everything's really politicized. Like everything is really polarized and politicized. And that can make it a little bit maybe more difficult to find a good therapist, because it's not a good therapist if they have a political agenda which they're pursuing while they're giving you therapy. But I think you should be able to find someone. You've touched on another interesting topic, is like you get relief. Like, do you think the way that the reason why you're in these incel forums and why you are talking about this stuff with other people, and basically you are just exchanging the negative experiences that you've made, do you think that's healthy?
Yeah, better than not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't, it's. I don't think I have the same energy as I once did with my old podcast. I think if you would have seen that stuff, I was a lot more. Did it almost every day,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I think less of it now, just because it's, I'm of course maturing and just becoming older. You don't. I've found myself not really needing as much feedback and having to talk to people as I once did.
Mm-hmm.
But that could just be aging, and that could just be burning out just from that. So, me at age 29 compared to when I was 18 are completely different people. So,
I mean, on the one hand, I agree that it's good to talk about stuff, and it's also good to have other people on the other side acknowledge your suffering and your pain and what you're going through, and them also understanding it because they're going through similar things. I agree, but on the other hand, I feel like you guys have created kind of an echo chamber where you have a really, really, like, if you only hear about the bad experiences of not only you, like you already have bad experiences, but all the people that you talk to basically have the same bad experiences as well. It makes it kind of impossible not to believe that the world in general is like that, right? Like, even if, like, right, if you let's if even if we move away from the incel topic, if we take another topic, if you just talk to a certain group that has a certain experience of reality, you will eventually think that this is everything there is, right?
yeah, I guess. I mean, it depends. It depends how you're coming into these groups, like what exactly you're coming from. Because I think if you weren't exposed already to certain elements, um, you may not. Like, I don't 100% agree with any group, to be completely fair. Um, but that's mostly based on like, like I worked in the restaurant business for over 10 years. So I've had to interact with different types of people, different age groups, that whole thing.
Yeah,
People
I've
with
worked in
anger,
gastronomy as well. It's really like a broad type of people that you get to know.
and you
Yeah,
get some of the most angriest people there, and you'll get some of
yeah,
the nicest people there.
yeah,
It's completely
definitely.
expected. So I get it. I get it. And maybe because of being there, I sort of got a better picture. And so when you're in incel forums, you can sort of, especially if you're talking about your experiences, you can be like, well, what was it like when I talked to this group of people or that type
Hmm.
of particular person, and how did that shape me? Did that hurt me? Did I not care?
Hmm.
And I do think real life experiences matter 100%, and you need to at least see what life's all about before you come to any conclusions.
Hmm.
And I'd argue I've come to the conclusion because I've been out there and I've seen what I want to see, or
Hmm.
I've seen what I don't want to see too. And um, I've come to my conclusion. But I don't. That's just an
I mean,
individual
when I
thing. So
hear the world that they like, the portrayal of the world, also from you, by the way, like when I listen to you and other black pillars and incels, and you talk about the world and the way it is and the experiences you've had. Like, obviously there is experiences that are really personal to you, and where you say, yeah, if you are an incel, if you are the way we are, then this happens to you. Of course, this I cannot directly say, okay, this is true or this is false, right? Because it's your experience and I don't share that experience. I'm not in the same situation. But there's times where you talk about, I don't know, women in general, and also women being with normies. Like, I would consider myself a normie, right? And when you talk about that, where I like know for sure, I'm like, no, man, that's not the way it is. Like, that's just not that. Like, there is not even two opinions to be had about it, in my opinion, the way I see it, right? So it gives me this feeling of people that are long time in these incel forums compared to incels that are not in these forums and are not in the community but have the same problem, like the exactly same situation, but only difference being that they're not in the community, that they have a really, really, really way different view of the world, and are also, I feel like, kind of doing better, like mentally and like emotionally. And I see a shorter way of getting out of the situation. But that's take this with a pinch of salt. Like, I'm not 100% convinced that this is the case, but that's just my feeling that I get. Is there a reality where you could concede to that, or do you think that this is complete BS? That it could
I mean,
damage you?
no, no. I mean, I'm already set on my ways. If I was younger, like much younger, maybe, but I think I'm set on my ways at this point. I'm a nihilist. I mean,
Bro,
I'm
you're
pretty
so
set.
young, man.
29 is not young. You're out
Bro,
of the day right there.
I'm a year older than you, and it's like, I mean, I've started my life over at like a few years ago, maybe 2 3 years, 2 3 4 years ago. It's like you can like restart everything every few years. It's like, um, and also you have to think, man. Like, it can be that it could happen that when we are 60, that life expectancy is like 120 or something like that. So us being like 30 right now can mean, could be the 15 of like 50 years ago.
I,
Um,
why would I want to be living to 100? I mean, I'm going to be gone by a year.
no, don't. Let's not talk about. I'm sorry, but
Right.
let's not talk
So
about this.
did you not see my videos when I talked about that? I've
I
already
did, but
accepted my I've
yeah, I
already
did.
accepted my nothing's going to change me at this point.
Hmm. Okay,
I mean, it would
maybe,
be
yeah.
abrasive to change me.
We can talk about this, but we would have to talk about it off stream. Um, yeah, I just wanted to make the point that age, like saying that you're too old for something, is not. I don't think it's a good argument, and I don't think it's true. But yeah, we can move on from that point if you want. Um, but independent of that, do you feel like there could be a negative impact from engaging too much in exchange of bad experiences?
You're going to get I get burned out from reading about other people's crap all the time. Yeah, I think take like you. It's funny you say. I was gonna say you gotta look at all as grain of salt. Anyway, the majority of people's stories and stuff, you just can go by what they say. But I don't. I think since I'm a little older, I don't really take people. I don't really take everything as seriously as I once did. I think everything's more. I don't know. I see the humor in a lot of this stuff nowadays. I don't really. I have I have hobbies. I have interests. I have things outside of the black pill incel sphere. So I'm not constantly, you know, thinking about this stuff. It usually, it's funny because I only go into stuff and I do the videos whenever I have those bad feelings or I'm having those bad days. But most of the time, it's like I'm not thinking about that stuff when I'm watching TV, my favorite show or reading comic books or something. I'm not thinking about this stuff. So I think as long as you have ways to entertain yourself and sort of distract yourself, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I think if you're always on the forums and you're always consuming black pill and stuff, I think that's as unhealthy as really consuming anything. That's not particularly uh, healthy, I guess.
What is the biggest reason why you, I mean, would you be interested in having, for example, just exchanges with other content creators like me, for example, who are not, I mean, I'm doing incel content about inceldom and blackpill, but it's not like I only do that. Like I have many different topics that I think need more attention, and I do all of them. But what stops you from making more, like, from moving around in the internet more and connecting with other people? Is there even something stopping you, or did you do it and had uh, bad exchanges, or it's just out of curiosity?
What, as Dark Cell or as me as myself?
As both, like as a user, but also as a content creator.
I know if I'm in the mindset of Dark Cell, I'm going to be as
Hmm.
much of a dick as possible.
Okay, why?
Um, I don't know. It's kind of a way for me to get back in society. It's just to
Hmm.
trash on everybody I can think of if I can. Especially if they're attacking something I enjoy. I like to attack those type of people. Um, and I mean, if you're talking about like me every day, like outside of the internet, for example, I just don't
Hmm.
talk to people.
You.
Also, just to give you, I'll give you a good example.
Hmm.
2 days ago, I went to the bar for the first time in like um, I don't know, 2 months, and there's a bartender there. I've seen her before too, but she never talks to me. She knows what I want, but she never talks to me. And I have probably like 3 beers and a shot of Jack Daniels. And then she didn't say, like I said, she says goodbye to everybody. She does all this, she knows everybody.
Hmm.
She's nice to them. But then when it's me, when I'm about to leave, I hand her my card. She gets the receipt back to me. Doesn't say have a good day or any of that crap. So I write, and guess what? The I think it was like 20 something dollars worth, something like that, 25 dollars. And so I give her a dollar for a tip. That's where I tipped her. So I didn't tip her 20% or anything. I just gave her like a dollar. And then I wrote next to it, ER is right.
Hmm.
ER is an Elliot
I
Rodger
know,
is
yeah.
right.
I don't
And
want to
so
talk about him either.
that's what type of person I am. I like to be sort of
I mean, I understand why you do it. Like, I understand. Like, it gives you a feeling of power and control, which you lack. If, like, right? Is like that will be the main thing you get out of it. I get it. Like, it's not like I'm It's not that that makes me angry or that I don't understand it, but um,
I have more enjoyment of pissing people, especially women, off.
yeah,
So
but
I mean, it's
I'm pretty sure that you're also a person that would enjoy um, taking care of people. And let me tell you why I think that. Like, there was, first of all, your idea of that it's your main reason for being on the planet as a human being is to reproduce. Like, that's one thing that you said, and I agree with that, like, to a certain extent. That already tells me a lot. And then also the um yeah, that mainly that actually. And there was another thing that but I know I forgot. Um, is that true? Like, am I correct? In
I think
I not
the
sorry. Now I know what the second thing was. You've said that people get children also for themselves, not only like it's basically a selfish thing to do, right? To because it makes you feel good to share it with somebody else, and it makes you feel good to have somebody that you have to care for, and only someone who enjoys caring for other people would say that, right? Like, so my question would be, do you do that? Like, do you try to I've been, for example, a mathematics teacher for children from um, families that come from war, from Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. And it has given me a lot of, like, it was really a great experience and it was really fun. Have you ever tried something like that? Have you ever? Is that
no,
even
I
something that
don't.
you would be interested in?
No, not really.
Am I wrong that you feel some kind of positive feelings from caring about someone?
I think I think I get off more on the notion of it. I think seeing I think if I was a better person, like in general, if I was a just not me and I had everything I already um able, you know, in my life, then I could see myself giving more to people, like certain types of people, I give more to them. Um but and it's the same thing when I think about relationships. Sometimes I think I'm not really good enough for that because I'm too kind of fucked up, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like wrong for trying or thinking of helping to any extent just because I feel like I'm not capable of really helping myself sometimes, so I don't really see myself as that person who can do it back for others. And also, I think just the embitterment of life has completely molded me to a certain extent, and it makes it hard to show any sort of um, positive, you know, vibes toward other people, especially women. And sometimes, it just feels easier to be angry, to more be of a dick. It's just easier. Um, that's why I had to quit work, is because I was becoming too unfiltered. I was becoming too angry. I threatened people at work. You know what I mean? I've said things that I don't regret them because they were just assholes. So I don't really regret it. But part of me feels very justified in being somewhat of a bad person,
And
I guess.
which part of you doesn't agree with the person threatening?
Wait, what?
Like, you said it in a way that implies that there was still a part in you that thinks it's wrong to do that, right?
I think from like a moral standpoint, it's like punching somebody. Like I've said, like I've been in fights, and afterwards you're just like, well, now I kind of feel bad.
Yeah.
to especially if like you did hurt the other person,
Yeah.
even though I got hurt. I'm so yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, but I think that's just you. I don't know if I should say that's human, but I think that's very. Uh, I just assumed everybody was like that, but the more I live on this earth, the more I realize everybody's like either like sociopath or narcissist. People are just they're not like me, and I wonder if I'm just. I'm not saying I'm special. I'm just saying I wonder if I'm just not seeing what other people see, or I'm not acting the way other people are. I don't know. Because I see normies treat people like absolute crap, but they get away with it. And I mean, if I did the same thing, you don't get the same uh, feedback. So we live in a really strange world where there's many double standards, and I think that has a lot to do with just who you are. If you're, especially if you're an ugly guy, you're a small guy, you're gonna get treated worse than a taller, more good-looking dude.
I
The,
guess
the halo and halo effect.
I am completely blackpilled, but just with mental health rather than looks.
Okay.
So like take everything that you say about like everything you think about like looks and apply it to mental health, and I'll be completely like I'll be on your side 100%. Like um I think like if you have mental health problems, if you have problems of self-love, anxiety, social anxiety, and all of these like can be everything, right? You will either like all of the good people, quote unquote good people, okay, like let's say healthy people, will be kind of trying to avoid you, and all of the quote unquote bad people will try to take advantage of you or yeah mistreat you.
Right.
And I feel like that's what many black pillars and incels are experiencing. And of course, like having um physical, like being ugly, like quote unquote ugly, fat, short, like all of these like societally negative physical attributes, right? Or even having a handicap or something like that, right? Being handicapped, being a midget, being, I don't know, being in a wheelchair, stuff like that. Like all of these things can have an initial huge can be a huge burden on your mental health, and can even cause it because of, I don't know, being bullied in school and stuff like that. Like it can be the main reason, like the initial reason, but at some point, like if you can get out of that, like this mental health state, um you can be cured from that. That's what I believe. And that's basically my whole current take on inceldom. And also like this conversation with you hasn't changed that. I mean, you've spoken about your depression, and I don't think you would even say that you are not depressed and that you don't have mental issues. You've said it many times. Um, but I believe that this is curable compared to like, yeah. Um, but I know that if you have these problems, life will be really, really hard to you. And I acknowledge that. And I feel with you, man. Like, it makes me sad that society is like, can be such a rough place. And I think like the US is especially a brutal place for mental health stuff.
Especially the U.S. I can tell you that. I can attest to that.
Yeah, it's really difficult to get help, and it's also really it's a doggy dog country.
it's very isolated. I think pretty much everybody feels the same way here, and I mean everybody's isolated. It's just, you know, there's a difference between being a normie isolated versus an incel isolated, and I don't think COVID helped any. COVID probably made it much worse.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I
Yeah.
think everyone around me, as soon as COVID sort of was around, I think everyone who was semi-normal became crazy. So made me seem like the normal guy for a while. So
Mm, yeah. Have you seen the first two interviews that I did?
um, I saw I saw some clips. I saw like yeah, because you put them in clips too, right?
Yeah.
There's some ones, and I know you have the full interviews, but I didn't watch those. I was just
Yeah.
watching the clip. Yeah.
Like most people, yeah. I've talked to the first person I talked to was basically someone that said, um, I don't have any affiliation with the communities. I'm not hanging around. I'm not really suffering. Like I wouldn't say that I'm really like heavily suffering. I have problems with my weight. I'm overweight, and I know that once I get that under control, I'll probably be fine. And so he was like, but he was still a virgin, and he also said that it's not something that I'm like exposing or something. He said so in his interview. Um, he was basically like in the same situation as you, like just like when we take the objective facts, but he had like a different, not all objective facts, of course, because he was overweight. That's why I also had this clip, which many people misunderstood, is over being overweight saving you from being an incel. Um, so that was the first person I talked to. The second person I talked to was a person that would consider himself as an ex-incel because he used to be in the community and is no longer, has basically, yeah, he sees it now in a very critical way. And now I talk to you. What do you think should be? Is there another facet to this that I should explore? That just from a when you try to abstract it and try to give me an advice for someone that would close up the picture and give me another perspective that we have not explored today.
I think I think if you're looking at inceldom as from a outside view, it's very easy to put everybody, including myself, all in the same box. But we know this with every other community. That's just not how it is. Nothing's black and white. It's very gray. Uh, my content, the dark cell, comes from a completely different viewpoint. Not just about women. A lot of the inceldom has a lot to do with just women. There's only so much you can say, so much information you can regurgitate and take and regurgitate. So I'd say a lot of the more based incels, more the dark pillars like myself, it stretches beyond that, and that's when you go down many rabbit holes, and I don't think it's for everybody because that's when you really become very. I think that's where a lot of this cynicism, at least my type, my nihilism, whatever for this world, but it comes from, and kind of realize everything is just a byproduct of evil, darkness. Just everyone around you is a byproduct of a negative, and and this is why I was saying earlier. It's very easy to be the bad guy. It's very easy to be angry and say things you don't really mean to say, but you say it anyway. It's very easy. It's easy to lose friends. I would know that. And guess what? I lost my friends because of the incel thing. Me, myself. So I think going down that road, you're going to lose a lot of people in real life, even if you don't have anybody around. I agree. I think you potentially alienate yourself. And, I accept that with myself. That's why I think people need to be very careful with how much they consume, especially if you're a normie. If you're not even an incel, you're a normie, and you start consuming it, you only have two ways of it going. You look at it as humor, and you don't think too much of it. You don't spew it out in the public. Or two, you get consumed by it, and you do, in fact, like I did, and you kind of manifest it. And but I think age has a lot to do with it. And I think the younger you are and you're getting into this, I think it can hurt. It can hurt you at a young age, which is why when we're talking about incels, we gotta be careful if we're talking about 20-year-olds or if we're talking about people in their 40s, because someone can handle it better. The maturity is a major factor, and I think I agree with you. It's a mental thing, a lot of it. Um, and I would actually say a lot of incels I met are very average,
Average in
and
what sense?
as just people in general. It could be physically and just how they talk. It's like that you wouldn't know that some of these people were incel
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you just had like a normal conversation about whatever. Which is very interesting because sometimes that's what happens. I have conversations with people who just they're not weird, they're not crazy, they're just a lot of dudes are lonely. I'll say that. A lot of dudes are
Yeah,
very isolated, so they
yeah,
don't have friends. Maybe they don't their family, they don't really have a good relationship. I don't have a
yeah,
good relationship with my family. Um, the only person I talk to from time to time is my brother, and my brother's at work right now. So I mean,
yeah.
and he knows what I do. Um, and I think most incels are very isolated people, and the more
So that
the
would
more they
that would mean that.
they get trashed. It's the worst it gets is the more we get trashed for basically being just feeling like burdens of society. So
I mean, I listen to your content, and um I have like I have big sympathies for you and as a person, and also for your situation and all. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, man, you have a big responsibility with your channel and with what you're doing. You might not realize it, but many people are looking up to you, and it's also, if these are, it's already like that in every niche, like in every content creator already has a big power over his audience, especially if they're young. But especially in this niche of the internet, you have a big responsibility, because you might be the voice that they hear the most during the whole day, and they might not even have a brother that they talk to. They might just have you, right? So um I'm really glad, like, on one side, I'm really glad that stuff like that exists, like the internet exists, and this person has you to talk to. Like, I see how you guys like go into Discord and talk to each other and blah blah blah, and I think that's a good thing. Like, no one should be alone. But um and you guys also talk about some positive stuff, like, and I think you should acknowledge what big of an impact it makes if you talk to someone about your favorite heavy metal bands, or if you talk about them, how horrible society is and how doomed everyone is, and like what big of a societal difference you actually make, also for yourself and also for others. um I mean, you don't strike me as a person that doesn't think about stuff. So but sometimes you maybe don't realize it because you're so much in it, right?
Well, that's why I say I think a lot of the incel stuff that you do hear, especially in the forums, going off topic is one of my fortes when it comes to having conversations, especially if we're talking about inceldom. I'm not the type of person that can talk about a topic for hours and hours on end. Not really. And I think there is and I think sometimes, thank God, I became burned out, because when you burn out, you don't put as much effort. Like, I'm talking about like the uh, mental energy into it. So I'm not as that's why I'm not as I may come off as angry, but I'm not nearly as out there as I once was. And it's because there's other avenues in my life I'd rather put my energy into. So
Yeah,
I
I see
mean,
that you're producing art, you're drawing, right?
yeah, I draw comic books, and that once
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing money from that, I was like, well, that's, I mean, and and that's the thing, when you're just doing something like that, you really do forget about your own crap.
Mm-hmm.
And
And the it's might sound really cruel, but pain can be a great source for art, right? And
yeah,
also pain can also be a great motivation. Like, I don't know if people realize it, but I mean, every time I went through a breakup or something like that, like, or some hard period in my life, it first it throws you off, but then you can once you're stable, you can guide this negative energy into like something really really good, like, and you can create an amount of energy that somebody who has a more stable life would never be able to get. um yeah. mm, yeah, it is a really hard topic, to be honest. Like, I know it's a tough topic. Like, you really have to select for what you want to talk about without going too much into um, the other person's personal life, and also like the general audience's personal life. And I think that was like the biggest challenge. And I think that's also why these mainstream media outlets are preferring to have like a really simple narrative about it, because that makes it way easier to handle it, right?
right, it's true.
Okay, man. um I've asked everything I wanted to ask, I think. um do you have questions, or um do you have things that you would like to say to finish off this talk?
I did mean to ask you, 'cause you say you're a normie, but like, are you in a relationship right now, or were you?
No, I'm not in a relationship right now. I mean, I can talk about it. I've been most in relationships most of my life. um I had my first girlfriend when I was like 16. um First time also when I was 16. uh First time for her as well. Then, yeah, another one when I was 20. Basically all of my 20s I've been in a relationship until like 28, and I'm single since 1 year now. um I've never been like going out and getting lots of girls and stuff like that. I've always been more of a relationship type guy. So that's why I would just consider myself a normie. But I've also have had periods right after a breakup, for example, where I've been in a bad place mentally, and that has just been the reason why I haven't had sex for like, I don't know, 6 to 8, 9 months. Because yeah, I was just down, or I had other priorities. Yeah, so it's not like I've never had these problems. Like, I would not say that this was a big problem in my life, but I've also gone through periods where I felt really, really bad, and that also affected the way that girls have reacted to me. So when I'm in a good place, I was really popular, and when you're in a bad place, obviously you're not. Like, that's and yeah. What
So what exactly exposed you to the incel thing? Did you have any friends or something that, or did you see anybody in real life that sort of gave off sort of an incel vibe, or was it mostly just the internet you found out about it? Like, how did you get exposed to this?
I mean, mostly just the internet, and also like mainstream media. You just hear about it, and what really, I just realized that many of the rules that we have as a society on how we deal with um, stuff like that didn't seem to apply for incels. And there's also other categories where these rules don't apply. Um, but there was one of those where I was like, that doesn't seem to be the healthy way to talk about this or deal with this. And also I see myself, like, I decided to make content, and I see myself as a provider of a certain service, right? So of course this is, to a certain extent, this is also like, you could see it as art, but not really, but in the, primarily this is a service that I'm trying to provide. I want to give a certain picture of something, a view on a topic that you don't see that much, that I'm missing, that I want to see. So yeah, that's why. But I have other topics on my agenda. Like, there's like, after this topic, I have like 3-4 other ones planned. But yeah, mainly it's because I don't like the way we talk about it societally, and I don't like the solutions. I don't like the conversations. I don't like the analysis. I don't like who we talk about. Like I told you, I don't want to talk about Elliot Roger. I don't even want to take his name in my mouth. Like, I don't want to talk about this shit. That's not interesting to me. Like, this is not. What's interesting to me is the guy that just sits at home and is suffering. That's interesting. Like, because that's the real problem. That's the real issue. Like, that's the majority that we have to talk about. Because most incels are just like not full of this raging hate and blah blah. It's just like people that are just feel shit and stay at home, and you will never hear about them, and that sucks. Like, and we should hear about them and talk about them. Yeah. Sorry, it was a long answer to your very simple question.
Well, it's I was funny you bring up just guys sitting at home, because if it wasn't for my bro my brother, someone who's had 3 or 4 relationships total. He's now 25. He hasn't had a relationship since, I don't know, 3 years ago. And besides going to work he stays home. He plays video games. The only time he talks to his friends is when he's playing video games, on a headset or whatever. And what I've noticed is even non-incels, like incel men, it's like more dudes are willing just to not go out. Um, but I guess the difference is I sort of I don't go out for the different reasons why he wouldn't go out. He's just more introverted. Um, I guess he's just not a guy that wants to go out and deal with the world. I guess.
He is more
Um,
introverted than you.
yeah, because I at least had to. I feel like I know when I have to talk, I talk. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I know how to like present myself and do all that. Even if the fake it to make it, like as people like to call it. Um, I'm not saying I was the most social guy. I wasn't, but
Hmm.
I knew what I had to do to get out of the situation. Just talk, especially when you're talking to customers at a restaurant. You
Hmm.
got to talk.
Hmm.
You got to know how to be nice and all
Of
this.
course.
That is until I, of course, went in the kitchen and started being a complete asshole. But like, it's just weird because when I asked my brother, "Why don't you go out?" He's just like, "I don't want to. Like, I just don't see the need to go out." And he doesn't even really see why, like, I would want a girlfriend or this or that. He almost makes it seem, and then I realize it's because he's burned out from girls. That's completely different. If you're burned out from women,
Hmm.
I think that's why we have a lot of these dudes who are red pill. It's dudes
Hmm.
who've been with women, and then for whatever reason, whether it's because of negative, um, like getting dumped or something, or the relationship
Hmm.
didn't work out, and
Hmm.
maybe you just don't want to spend money on women or something like that. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But it sounds like he just burned out, and he'd rather just settle for himself.
Hmm.
And a lot of dudes, especially this generation, a lot of dudes would rather do that. And I think what the media does is they think those guys are the same thing as an incel, but they're
Hmm.
not.
And you say they're like basically voluntarily celibate, but because they have, yeah, because they've suffered from it.
And most of them had sex. Most of them had relationships. It's just now they don't care anymore. And I
Hmm.
don't. And also, if you look at, of course, like marriage, a lot of guys don't want to get married. They're looking at it. They're not really seeing positive outcome of it, and women don't even want to get married. They want to sleep around. They want to do what they want to do. So you have this whole individualism. Everyone's an individual. Um, and you could say that's a good thing. That's not good for society though in the long run. That's why when I even hear my brother who could easily get married whenever, it's like he just doesn't care. He doesn't ever care to have kids, any of that. So I don't and so I think to a point, normies actually the reason they don't care as much as an incels because incels then they get to experience it, and if you don't get to experience it, you're gonna want to do it more. And I can only imagine if you never played video games or been on a roller coaster, and then somebody who has tells you they're not that great or they're very mediocre. You know, it's like how would you're
Yeah,
listening to someone who has the experience you don't.
I don't think that's how that would work for like sexuality or romance. I could imagine, like, I don't want to make any assessments about your brother. I don't know him and I haven't even talked to him. So, but what I see is that sometimes people that are in a bad state of mind, as I've said, like if you're in a bad state of mind, the good people are generally the healthy people are generally taking their distance. They're trying to, at least, if they understand, if they feel the negativity inside you, they try to take a distance from you. And then there is negative other negative people that are drawn to you basically, and sometimes that can lead to people being taken advantage of. And it could be that, I mean, I've seen it many times with, for example, really handsome friends of mine who have been in bad states of minds, but they have, for example, attracted women that have been emotionally very predatory, right? And all the healthy women that are not predatory and they that just want a good, nice relationship, have avoided them completely. So, and that can of course scar you a lot. Like sometimes it can even scar you more than being completely alone. I believe in that 100%. That and that's the only cope, by the way, that I allow for generally. That I'm like, when you're in a really really bad place mentally, it might be better to fix your mental state and then date rather than just wanting a girlfriend, because that might hurt you more, because you could end up in a abusive relationship. So yeah, but just losing the appetite for a romantic partner doesn't seem really healthy to me, to be honest. It sounds more like I just fundamentally believe that the wish for a romantic partner, and also to a certain extent for sexuality, is something so innate to the human experience that if it's not there, there is significantly something wrong, and that needs fixing. That's just kind of the way I see it. That's also what I was trying to explain earlier when I said like people go to the craziest extent. I remember that one when I broke off with one of my girlfriends. That's a really really long time ago. I had a contact, like I had a girl that really liked me, but she was in a completely different country, and at that time I didn't have like anything going on in my country. She was like not that far away. It was another European country, really close. Not, I mean, but still another country, right? It was like at least 5-6 hours drive just for getting laid, which is like insane, you know. And I really went there and just to get laid. And I don't see the same. So that's why I'm always saying that I don't feel like incels care that much about sex. I feel like they even, on average, care less about sex than the average guy.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, once again, but I mean, and I'll go back to what I said too about that. That's why I say if we're talking about young incel dudes who, by the way, I take a lot of their crap sort of. It's very, like I said, take them for a grain of salt just because they're so young and they
Mm-hmm.
have like if you're still in high school, you shouldn't be thinking about the black pill or red pill. You really should just be trying
You,
to.
that's not even
Uh,
in like in our generation. There would just be somebody who's a little bit more late than,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
right. That's
So
not an
that's why.
incel. Like that doesn't
Right,
make
right.
any sense.
And but that's the thing. It's like if we're but the ones who are and that's sort of the negative of the internet. I know you were saying how you love
Yeah.
the internet. I do too. I love the internet. But the negativity is to me is like just knowing too much, the knowledge of things. It can be good and bad, but the way you take it. And I think little kids, and yes, I'll call them little because that's what they are mentally.
Yeah.
They're taking in information that I didn't know about. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
about this stuff at 16, but now you got 16-year-olds knowing about it. And the more you just exploit this stuff to younger people, they're going to become nihilistic before they even know what life is.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not going to
Yeah.
understand how to actually act. At least I kind of got that. I kind of was able to go out there and see what it was all about. Obviously, it came down to a negative, but at least I was able to see and experience things. But some of these people are just like, I'm not going to go out at all, and I'm like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 18. It's like,
Yeah. It's
no, go
crazy.
out,
Yeah.
do something. You don't
Yeah.
know. It's like
Yeah. But
so, but
he's suffering from
that's
the same thing that you're suffering from as well. Like it's a thing. I mean, if a 50-60-year-old incel would say the same about you, right? Like,
I wouldn't
th-
say that. I wouldn't say that at all.
I
I
mean,
would
I
say that
agree.
most people agree. Most people agree once you're over the age of like 25, it's pretty much over. And that's
I
only
mean,
because enough time's gone by, you're not in college anymore. If you go to college, I mean,
mm-hmm,
you're not in college anymore. After that, most people are trying to settle with their careers, all this and that, whatever. And so by the time you're trying to look for a relationship, most
mm-hmm,
people aren't going to be as reciprocative you, especially if you've never had sex or you've never been on a date or that. Most of those people are burned out. Women are burned out by the time they're already 25 because they've had so many sex partners, so many bodies, that they don't care, and they end up hating men too. Like women hate men more than men hate women, just because they get burned out from sex. Whereas guys get burned out because they can't get laid. So I mean, it's like the two opposites make very bitter people. Um, and so good luck being some guy who's never been on a date, never had sex, never any of that, and then tries to interact with a woman who's a feminist and is post college and she doesn't want to have kids, she's a liberal, this and that. It's like good luck trying to obtain that. Good luck obtaining the unicorn, I should say, out of the pile of that, all the lesbians and all the feminists and all that. So I mean, it's harder now than it was back then, especially with the type of quality of women we have nowadays. So
My camera went off. Is that possible?
yeah, it's green.
It's green. Why is it green?
It's
It might have heated up too much.
oh.
Sorry, man. But you can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I
Is
can
it
see you
back?
now.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously disagree. So you have stated that it's too late for you. So now I'm gonna state that I think basically that I'm 100% sure that you can fix all of your problems within like 3 to 4 years with the right help, with the right person. But I don't want to get into it because it would just be just do XYZ type of conversation, and I don't want to do that because I think these general statements of just do X, Y, and Z are really like kind of also disrespectful to a certain extent.
Yeah, like take a shower. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, like it's really, really disrespectful, and yeah. But if we would we would even like exactly like we have this disagreement about you and about like 99% of incels, right? So I would say for 99% of incels, I would say, man, this can be easily turned around. Like this is like no matter how old you are, you can even be 40 and there's still a chance. And also like just as a side note, the way of getting there will also give you a way better life than just giving up or just basically waiting out life, you know, like that's just my take on it. But there is, I think, a 1%, like a very, very small amount of people with like very, very severe, with so severe mental health conditions or with so severe physical conditions that the probability is really, really low that they can like that they can strive for something, that they can go in some direction with the hope of getting better. So I think maybe that's one case that we haven't talked about yet. And yeah, so we both agree that this exists, right? So if you have this like severe, yeah. So basically, you already agree for 99% of incels, and I only agree for like 1% of incels, right?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Don't you think that there's um that there can be yeah, you call it coping, like which is like a big topic in incel community in general, but also on your channel. Um, I believe, even though I think that this is an innate need and innate necessity of the human experience, I still believe that it can be mitigated by other things. For example, getting the validation from society in different ways. Do you agree?
But getting, yeah, I mean, if you're when you're growing up, you hope to have some sort of positive reinforcement throughout your life to have some sort of. I mean, that's where your confidence really comes from. It doesn't come out of thin air. So if you're if unfortunately you're just in the worst situation possible and nobody, not even your family, is giving you any sort of a leg up in life, it can be pretty hard
But why you say
do
not even your
things.
family?
Yeah, I mean, my family was not supportive.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I feel like families are a very problematic case in general, right? So I know
especially,
we, yeah.
yeah,
So, and
I,
also you cannot replace them. So they're like, I would say it's really hard to have everything good on that front, right? But I mean, you could easily, I think, like when I look at, I mean, not let's not talk about you, but I mean, when we look at someone who, I mean, I guess it's difficult if you have really really severe, so severe mental disabilities that you are not able to, that there is no hope for getting somebody. But I mean, just doing stuff like charity work or stuff like that, um, it's it's something that gets the society is really respecting that and is really rewarding that as well with like validation, right? Um, if you think that the that you are in this hopeless case, the way I see the really really mentally or physically handicapped people, then I would think that if you really look at it in a rational way, as you claim that you do, like the way you present your yourself as really as a rational person, and I think rationally this would, to me, would say, okay, I could find a different form of validation, societal validation. Um, that's why I think that your way of seeing the world is not coming from a place of rational decision, but rather from a place of being depressed and yeah, having problems on that side. Do if I'm reaching too much, please tell me. You can just say, let's talk about something else. And yeah,
or you're saying you weren't specifically talking about me, but
yeah, and then I switched over to you, but
oh, really, because if there's a huge difference between if I would have never worked in my life, then I would have never garnered any sort of relationships out of that, even if they were very limited. Um, I think I would have been worse off. But since I did have to deal with people and I had to have the trial and error, um, I think it helped me. At the same time, it's made me less likely to really. It's actually done the opposite. I don't really want to talk to people.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, I've seen my fair share of the different types of women, for example, that I worked with of all ages, of all races, of all whatever, and they're all typically the same. Um, especially if they're all around the same age range, they're typically the same, and and pretty much, and my point is, I don't need to look too much further out to see how women are. If we're just talking about women, um,
no, we,
and but I mean, I don't know exactly because if we're talking about like other things in society, I mean, sure, there's things I enjoy. I used to go to heavy metal concerts, for example.
mm-hmm,
I used to go to certain like places interact with people, but you get tired of it because it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, because it's just
And
like consumerism, right? So it's not really creating
it's
something.
yeah, it's the same mundane crap.
Yeah,
And talking to people, it's not that. By the way, it's not even like it's hard to talk to people. I just think small talk is useless.
I agree. But
So
but there is stuff that gives you validation as a person, right? For example, drawing, like producing art, can give you
yeah,
validation as a person. Helping other people can give you a lot of validation as a person. There is many sources of validation you can get um, as a mitigating factor that will make you feel better, right? That you can activate just like that can be activated on demand, basically, right? Would
which
you agree?
and I agree. I agree 100% that
Mm-hmm.
you need, especially as an incel, you need to have those outside things to keep you mentally in check and distracted, really distracted too, because normal people aren't thinking about all the negative stuff in their lives, or sorry, they are, but it's not such an apparent thing that it ruins their day or ruins their whole mental state. You take everything piece by piece and then whatever, but uh, I don't know. I think as an incel, you need more hobbies than the average person. I think you need more things to do because
More
if you're never
validation,
gonna, huh?
more positive reinforcement and validation, right?
Yeah, because you're just gonna. It's very easy to fall back and have those days where you're not doing anything,
Yeah.
and so uh, yeah, but I don't think that necessarily means you need to go and I don't know do anything crazy like for validation. I think simple things to validate yourself is fine.
I think people underestimate helping other people. It's like it's a I know that I have underestimated it, and at the point somewhere life has steered me to do some charity work, and uh I wouldn't have done it otherwise, I think. And it really showed me like how what that it's really something else. Yeah.
And that's
um yeah.
fine and dandy, but I'm definitely not going to say it's going to help you obtain any girlfriend. I'll just say that. I mean, I don't know.
But it's
I
about,
don't really
yeah.
see I don't really see much of really doing a lot of this stuff just for myself since I already do it for myself. Um, I don't really. I mean, I know you keep talking about charity, but I'm not. There aren't. Not. There's not really much of a scene for that here. Now that I think about it, because everything's online. Everything's
Yeah.
like helping people out. You can do that online. So I don't really see people helping each other physically anymore as much as I remember.
Yeah, I guess that
Uh,
that would be a really nice topic with which I would like to. That's I'm the whole time I'm basically trying to find like some positive, like, which also is a little bit stupid of me that I am trying to find a positive out of what we talked about. But don't you think that we can that I think we would both agree that digitalization has really worsened the situation has amplified all of the problems that have already existed before, right? Um, Let that be dating, individualism, loneliness, mental health, and all of these things have been amplified by digitalization. But I think we are now in a period of transitioning. I mean, we're really at a unique place, and also me and you, we are at a unique age where we remember the time without the internet, but we're still so young that we grew up into it. But we still remember a time where we didn't even have cell phones, right? Sure, you remember that time, right? Where you had to like call the home telephone to meet your friends. So I think that we also, our generation has like this unique responsibility, like especially our age has like this unique responsibility to bring some of this old stuff that was better into this new world and to shape this new world uh, with the stuff that we still remember. Because the people that are older than us, they're too out of touch with the new world, and the people that are younger than us, they don't even know about the old world, right? So we're like a pretty unique bridge of both of these things, and I think that gives us a big responsibility also to help shape this for the next generation. I mean, if you look at incels as an oppressed group, which to a certain extent I agree with, there has been many oppressed groups in history, right? And sometimes even if you can't solve it for if the people most of the time the people that have changed society for the better have never benefited from changing the society, but have future societies have benefited from what they have achieved. So I would love, for example, people like you and other incels that are now creating content be like front figures of changing this whole image that incels have in society, and that we can say at some point, man, it used to be like really shit and it used to be really hard to get help, but thanks to X, Y, and Z, we have been able to change this image and to make this these problems more recognized from society and get more help to people. Yeah, that's my thoughts on maybe
I
a
mean,
positive outcome.
I guess in a perfect world that could happen, but
Wait, that's not a perfect world. That's a pretty cruel world that I just described. I didn't describe a
in a
perfect world.
perfect world for us. I don't care about the rest of society.
Ah, you mean the future? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
better.
mean, I mean, I there's so many problems in the world, and you'd agree that sometimes you don't know which one is more priority. Prioritized. Even in my mind, there's like other things in my mind when I think of like what needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
And funnily enough, it's not really relationships or this crap. Just because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as focused on it. There's
Mm-hmm.
just other things that I'm like, you know, that go through my mind on a regular basis that I wish had changes to them. And um, I guess because I'm not around people as much, so I don't have to think about them as much. And I think that's kind of what the internet's done too. It's kind of sheltered, especially younger people, sheltered people from real human interaction, and that can make you very uh, maybe dismissal of dismissive of, I guess, certain people's problems. I don't know. I think the internet in general, just in general, has made everybody very skewed. Their priorities are very skewed. So um I don't think about it as much as I used to. Even though I make the content, it's not as heavy of a topic. You know, at least I wouldn't. I wouldn't like if there are people out there and they want to do activism or something, they can. But I'm not. I'm not one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much the guy who's like, "Oh, that's fine, just leave me out of it."
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather just kinda be in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
'Cause I do think there are better people than me. There are better people who are, better like-minded people who, have a better voice than me and are a little more less unfiltered than I am and are a little more like, they're the spokespeople. I couldn't be a spokesperson for
Mm-hmm.
anything because I'm too radicalized when it comes
Hmm.
to almost anything.
You
I'm
think
talking
they
about
wouldn't,
anything.
people, mainstream society would not listen to you because of you using slurs or being having a really bad opinion of women, right?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I'm against a lot of groups, not just women.
yeah, yeah.
So they,
I mean, if I'm
it'd be
being
pretty bad.
like, I want to be really transparent about how I feel about it. Like, to be completely honest, I feel like there is two kinds of people that are misogynist, racist, um, let's say in total, like, engage in discrimination. Okay, there's people that in society that engage in what I would call discrimination and racism, sexism, whatever, right? So, and but I think there is really two types of people, like ones that are coming really from a place of hurt, and then there's others that come from a place of sadism, right? um that's just the way I see it. And your type of, like the one I see from you, goes to me in the type category of people that just are hurt, and it's a really easy way to explain away the world, and to, it's just, to me it's cope. Like, that's just the way I see it. I don't want to offend you or anything, but that's just the way I see it. And it's the same, for example, when I see people that are like on the street, like there is a, here in Europe, there is a rise of the far right now in all of Europe. It's pretty big, and most of the people that are electing these far right parties, they also come from a place of hurt. You know, like, it's they have shitty lives. They've worked their asses off. They don't get anything from it, and it's just an easy explanation. And it's more of a rebellion against the people that oppress them, but they just do it the wrong way. So I can't really take it. I don't really see it as like something that makes me angry, because I know that once we take away the hurt, the racism, sexism, the whateverism is going to disappear. And I've seen it. I've seen it live with people, that it has disappeared, or at least has been reduced by quite a lot. I can't say the same about the sadist types. These are generally people in positions of power, that yeah, just want to see the world in these categories because it gives them a sadistic pleasure. So yeah, that's why I don't have a problem talking to you, and I don't have a problem having sympathy for you, and to feel a human warm connection to you, because I don't think that you don't strike me as a sadist type, more than anybody in the world. We all have sadistic sides to us. That's, I think, pretty normal. But I think you know what I mean.
Right.
I think you know what kind of
Yeah, yeah.
difference I mean. Yeah.
Don't worry. I've met dudes who the so-called chads, right, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
I met a lot of these people when I was in school, and they were the most misogynistic pieces of crap I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
They still got women. My point is, some of the crappiest people ever are the winners, and that's sort of how I look at society. Is the people who control society are the winners, and they're some of the most like you said, sadistic people out there. They're not. They don't care about the common man. They don't care about you know. They look at us like rats in the sewer, and being a misogynist with no power is completely different than someone who is a misogynist but has all the power in the world. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I
and it
mean, these guys like that you described, they the women that like this type of man are basically in this situation, in like in a bad mental health situation generally. It's like something that is really against human nature to seek something that is destroying you or that is harming you, and it's from a place of self-harm, that they engage with these sadistic types. And I don't think it has anything to do with looks, by the way. I've seen the ugliest motherfuckers be with their girlfriends and really sadistic. Like that's just like, unfortunately, that's, you have, I think bad mental health really draws bad mental health, and good mental health really draws to good mental health, you know, like so the only way to get better is to have some external factor artificially, just like with the positive and also with the negative, you need some artificial external factor that is like breaking up this positive or negative reinforcement of mental health. You know what I mean? So if you have a really, really, yeah, I think you know what I mean, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think like rather than like when I talk to a friend that is heartbroken and he has just finished with his girl, he's just broken up with his girlfriend, and he obviously the thing he wants most is like directly have bury his sorrow basically in the next girl. But I also tell my friends, and I tell myself that as well, you first have to get better. Like you first have to get over it, get back on your feet mentally, and then you can go date, and then you will find a good girl, and then you will also find somebody who's not treating you like shit. But if you go like this, outside like this, in this vulnerable and shitty position, you're just gonna draw people that are shitty and they try to take advantage of you, right? You're not gonna make good business if you take out your money and go outside and wave it around and yell stupid shit. You're not gonna find good people to make business with, right? It's just not gonna work. You're gonna probably draw many bad people. It's a tough world, man. It can be really tough. And I think one thing that our parents' generation is not understanding, how difficult actually it is in being in this transitional period of these two worlds. For them, it was like really straightforward. It was like really, at least that's what but I think we're in a really unique place, humanity-wise, as a time period. And I think we should acknowledge that and not be so hard on ourselves.
I do believe people started really changing around the same time as like Facebook and Tinder and all that stuff sort of just came out of the blue. And then like I would even say when it was early MySpace, those days,
I
that was
remember.
actually not bad. Like that was normal. I don't know, it was really, it seemed less toxic. Um but for some reason as soon as Facebook came around and all that, and the I think once the, smartphone came around, that really technology pretty much is the end, is kind of ending us. Like we're I think people's personalities got really bad. Everybody became a narcissist. And that includes the normies. So it's really hard to want to talk to each other or want to trust each other. Um and then when you're like me, or you're another incel and you're already on the bottom, it's like now everybody else has become worse. So it's like you're even further down. You know what I mean? Like
Why?
we're buried. Huh? The expectations for things are so,
Yeah, they're insane. Yeah,
so
yeah.
it kind of makes you go like, well, I don't really, you know, that's why you got so many people that just end up being loners. They don't really want to talk to people, and I don't know, man. You know what it is? It makes you it feels like you're aging more than you're supposed to. And I'm talking mentally, you're aging more. Like you
Really, you
burn
feel
out
that
too.
way? I feel like we're still children. That's the way I feel. Like I feel
No,
like,
I feel like an old man. Like I feel like
yeah,
I'm ready to go.
I know you feel like, yeah, but that's normal because of many things. I think that's, but I think still in a way, don't you think that, I mean, I feel like our parents at our age were at a totally different place from a, Like they were way more grown up.
They were more happy. They were more happy. They
They
still
were
had
more
like a lot
happy,
of
probably, but
yeah.
there were still also more grown-ups.
I agree. I think and that's because they were told you need to know how to do this and that.
Yeah,
You're not kids aren't being told you need to have a like you need a job by this time. It's like when we had like sort of a um schedule for ourselves or like a roles for ourselves, we just did it. We didn't really question it. Um and then like you said, you become an adult earlier. But that help that's a good thing. That makes you more likely to succeed and be able to get through what would be harsh times in life. You can figure it out. But nowadays, you got kids now, and they don't even know how to do their own taxes.
yeah. I
You know what I
didn't,
mean? It's,
I didn't know until I was like 23 or something like that, 24.
I had to learn as soon as I got a job. I just had to learn how to do
Yeah,
taxes because I was like, I was the number one thing that scared me back then was screwing up my taxes. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
you just need 12 years. You need 12, 13 years just to be a normal, like, to be a functioning member of society, right? Like, just like 12 years of school and then probably some, I don't know, some college or other formal education just to have like a normal job, like just a regular job. And that's already crazy, right?
yeah, it's
Um,
and it makes and that's kind of what sucks though too because it's not teaching you anything if you have to if you have to struggle for the simplest things, that's not helping you. That's making you wonder, is it only going to get worse? And then you got to tell yourself, yeah, it is. As in, the struggles are going to get worse as you age. Like, but if you already have all that stuff set up when you're younger, when your brain is more of a sponge, being able to take in information, you're going to be better off. You just are. And also community's kinda dead too, like, people just don't care about each other, so there's not that sort of positive reinforcement with one another, and your parents are together, they know parents who have kids, it's these small little communities. That's how you brought people up, but that doesn't really happen as much anymore. Like, kids would rather be isolated, not talk to their parents, the parents barely have anything to do with their kids' lives, and then it's like, um there's no authority too. Like authority is almost like out the window. So like if parents don't know how to like teach their kids to do anything or treat them pretty bad. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, there is one concept that I read about like really really early on. It's a long time ago. It's the optimism in the face of uncertainty. It's a really really important concept for basically for growth in general. Um, how important it is for optimism, um, for anything to happen, basically. Like you have so many evolution, like the way evolution has worked in so many ways was that something that had a really low chance of actually becoming something else or of surviving, actually surviving. Um, because, yeah, like just the fact that life even started in the universe or on planet Earth is already like a really really small chance that this was going to happen, right? Um, and same for like every type of evolution,
Right.
and same for all of the inventions that we have, right? It's like some some crazy person is trying something that seems insane to other people and so low probability that it's going to happen, um, but they still do it even though it's not rational. And one reason I think why the black pill, or generally like not only the black pill, actually it's way bigger parts of society than just the black pill, are so doomerish and so like negative, is because of this pure rational way of seeing the world, instead of being more in touch with the emotions and allowing for being vulnerable and hoping for something and being disappointed, and then hoping again and being disappointed. And I think that's so valuable. And in this hyper numberized world where everything's just a statistic, that's completely lost. And we have to get back to that, I feel like, right? Because it's so valuable. It seems so valuable.
I you know, a lot of that came from is when you're a kid, you have to have imagination, and a lot of kids they don't have any imagination. Like, you know what I mean? They don't like nobody goes outside. Like kids don't go outside. I don't know about you said in Europe, you guys don't.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but you guys don't celebrate Halloween, right?
We do actually.
Okay.
Because of you guys. We do.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know. Like, I'm a bit ignorant of who celebrates what, where.
Sure.
But when when I went trick or treating as a kid, there's plenty of kids. Neighborhoods were in fact, lights on. Everybody's handing out candy.
Yeah.
Um, you go out today, or at least where I am, and there's no kids going out. Nobody's wearing costumes. No, people are treating Halloween as just a day to. The kids would rather be inside playing video games and do it, or just being online all day. Or I guess if you're a teenager, you go to some party, which is normal, I guess. I've noticed like the childlike innocence is pretty gone, and I blame the internet for that. It's just the exploiting so much
I
of
mean, I
this.
blame parents for that. I mean, that's like
Yeah, yeah,
we had television, right? I mean, like we could have sat in front of the TV the whole day as well. But I don't know how it was with you, but my parents were like, my mother was pretty anti-television, and she only allowed it to me like certain amount of time per day. And so, and also my father, he was like, go out, do this, blah blah blah. So it was not. Yeah, I think as a parent you have a big control over that, and you can also make kids get excited about other shit, you know. And if they're on the computer, I don't know, make them build something, make them build the game that they want to play, you know, like yeah, I was really into hip hop music my whole life since I'm like 9 years old, or 9 years old. I've always listened to hip hop music, nothing else. And I would have loved, for example, for my parents. I mean, they couldn't know because they didn't have the education for it. But to make them help me like learn to make beats or something like that, you know, on the computer. And like that's a great way of spending time in front of the computer, right? Like that's not a waste of time. That doesn't make you stupid. Yeah, we got into the how do you say, what's our generation called? Millennials, right?
millennials, yeah.
Yeah, we got into the millennial. Everything was better in our times talk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because what is it? I think millennials ends around 98, 99 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because my brother was born in 98, and
Mm-hmm.
he thinks completely the opposite of me.
Mm-hmm.
like about
Is he
it.
very optimistic?
Yeah, especially with technology.
Mm-hmm.
He loves I mean, I think technology is absolutely like I'm talking about like the kind of absurdity that we hear nowadays of going to Mars and all this other crap. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't care for it. But
Mm-hmm.
he's very in the mindset of change. Like he likes change. I don't. So
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of Gen Z has that. They
Yeah.
like to change. You know what it is? It's because I don't think they like the modern society we live in. I don't think they see a real point to it. Whereas I, funnily enough, feel like I have more of a, maybe it's because I don't know. I'm like okay with the minimalistic simplicity of my life, whereas it seems like everyone else wants to go 100 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with being left behind because I don't really care. But it seems like a lot of, and maybe the young, maybe it's like that's the replacement for not having the young, like I was talking about the imagination. I wonder if that's like the replacement is just to be faster and not care about the present at all, and just I don't know, have this really naive sense of where we're going. I don't know.
Sense
I
of
tell my brother,
escapism, maybe, like.
yeah, but it's like really bad because you're not living in the now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're just not really thinking about the priorities you have right now. They're just
Mm-hmm.
thinking about they're talking about space for God's sakes. I mean, I'm not, it's just naive to me because if we're gonna go to Mars, me and you are not going. It's gonna be all the billionaires and the millionaires going. So
I mean, look at how fast computers evolved. Like within, like, I don't know, 30 years, a computer as big as a room became something that you could put in your pocket, right? So it
yeah,
might be that space travel is evolving in the same way, and also from a price perspective, it evolves in the same way as computers did, and then it could be pretty. We could maybe have this conversation. Outer space. But yeah, of course, that's a big leap, and I'm not counting on it. Um, and my happiness also doesn't depend on it. I mean, that's also again with the optimism in the face of uncertainty. Like I work in IT, and it could be done basically tomorrow, like all of it, right? Like, and many other jobs, like managerial positions. So many positions are now up for debate, and but there's nothing I can do. I still have to go forward. I mean, already at the time where I decided to get into this line of work, this danger was already there. And now, since like 3 years, I'm earning my money with it. And I could have just said, this is not sure, I'm not going to do it. But I would have missed the last 3 years, of having a good, okay income and, an okay job. So yeah, man, optimism, it's really crucial for survival. Even, I think it's really, really crucial.
right. That
Yeah.
sounds more like the matter of taking a chance.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
required because you don't take any chances. Hey, and I agree. I agree to a
Yeah.
certain extent. If you don't take certain chances that are obvious, then I'd actually say you don't have much to complain about when you don't get a result. So but I mean, obviously, you could extend that to a
Yeah.
lot of things. But
I
yeah,
want
I guess
to.
if I didn't take if I didn't take the job I had, I wouldn't have gained experience, and I wouldn't have gained the money I earned from it, that I still have.
Mhm.
um, so it's yeah, I don't regret that at all. I mean, so but yeah, I mean, and by the way, I was gonna say I don't think um I don't regret not talking to certain women because I think almost every woman I've ever been attracted to, I took a chance with and it didn't work out. I mean, what I'm
Mhm.
saying though is I don't regret not doing it,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it you know
I've already told you, like, there is a high probability that if you were in a really bad state of mind at the time, that you would also be attracted to. That there is at least a probability that the girls that you're attracted to could have harmed you as well, right? So I wouldn't I wouldn't disagree with you not taking the chance, but I would definitely disagree with you not taking the chance with getting in a better state mentally. Like, even if you had maybe bad experiences with therapists and stuff like that, but to try again and yeah, I guess we haven't talked, but we're already talking since 3 hours, so we're gonna have to wrap this up. But we haven't talked at all about Looksmaxxing, which is, I think, quite an interesting one, because it's both really can be really, really toxic and really, really harmful for people and really bad for people. But at the same time, I'm like, if it helps you, man, like, just do it. Like, it can be, I mean, I could use some Looksmaxxing. They would probably tell me to get a hair transplantation and stuff like that. But what do you think about Looksmaxxing? Just quickly before we end this.
I think if you can, if you think it's going to benefit you, whether it's literally go get, I mean, I'm against doing the surgery thing, since I think that's just, I mean, that
Same, yeah.
anybody can go get surgery, and let's be honest, most people look like crap after it. I don't think we've had it. I mean, just look at all the celebrities that get surgery all the time. They end up looking like crap, not good. So I mean, if you're just some random incel who, I mean, I'm going by the stereotype, but if you're neat and you don't have a job and you don't have money, and the first paycheck you get, or whatever amount of money if you did get a job, and you think that changing your whole entire face is going to get some girl, some random, I don't know what girl it is, but someone is going to be attracted to you, it's going to do the opposite, I think. Or the people who think that extending their legs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The legs surgery. I think
Yeah.
that's stupid. That's stupid as hell. It's like, have fun being in a wheelchair for like a year or so while you're healing. I mean, it's just there's so many. I think if you want to, if you want to work out and you want to make yourself just healthy physically, that's fine. I don't care. I do think that's if you're fat, if you're really fat, you're really unhealthy. I would actually say, yeah, go ahead and try to get as fit as possible and then see what happens. Um, but besides that, I don't know. I just think if someone doesn't like you for who you are, like what you look like by the standard, um, I don't really see I don't really see much of a reason to look smacks unless you really want to.
I mean,
I mean, if you like working out, then do it, but I don't. But don't do it because of women.
I feel like the looks, I mean, it can help people, I think, for being more confident and feeling better about themselves, and therefore being like, there is this sentence of just be yourself, right? Which kind of became, I think, a Blackpill meme, right? But the response basically is, yeah, I'm being myself and people don't like me, right? But
Yeah.
I think that this it's the answer to be yourself is just as stupid as the saying be yourself, because I think every guy knows this, by the way. Like, at some point, no matter if you're a really successful woman or not, at some point in your life you've had the experience where you talk to a girl and you're not yourself at all. Like, you're really, really scared, you're really insecure, and you're like a weird caricature of yourself, right? And so Looksmaxxing, I think, can help people to be more themselves, right? Because they have deal with less anxiety, less problems, like less assumptions of rejection while going into the conversation. So they can be more of themselves, like can be more natural and can radiate less anxiety and more security, and that can help, I think. Um,
But that sounds, but that you know, you can be a good conversationalist and act normal if you've had if you've never had experience with talking to people. That's why I think people need to be in social settings. Like that's why jobs to me are so important.
yeah,
Um, it doesn't even matter if you're good looking, because if you're just socially stupid, you're just socially retarded. That's not really gonna help you that much. I mean, I mean, but though you could argue you don't need to talk at all, and it's all about the looks, which
I
that's a
don't
whole
think so. Yeah,
conversation.
that's bullshit. I think
That's
that's
a whole
bullshit. Yeah.
conversation on itself, because that's
That
debatable,
can
really.
help you like get the initial interest and
Yes.
blah blah, but at some point it's just comes down to how does the other
Yeah.
person feel about you when you talk and when you say something, and how yeah, just that.
There's and even if you're good looking, there can be
Yeah,
someone exactly the same as you, but
yeah,
they have 2, 3 points above you. They got a better
yeah,
job, they got money, they already have a house while
yeah,
you live with your parents. So there's always gonna be sort of those, so yeah, I agree. The looks gets you through the door, but before that, if you're trying to get upstairs
yeah,
in the bed, the looks aren't gonna um the fine, the finality or whatever, for the woman's choice. I mean, I agree. So yeah, but yeah. I mean, looks match because you're doing it for yourself. I don't think you should looks match because you think you're gonna get to date Jessica Alba tomorrow or something.
it's funny that you say Jessica Alba, because like that's the dream girl of our generation. Right? That's like
I literally have her right here.
nice.
I have
Yeah, I
Jessica
heard you
Alba right.
talk about her in another stream as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's from that. Did you ever watch that show, Dark Angel?
No, I actually never watched. I just know her from my friends' fantasies, basically from saying that. I don't think I ever watched a movie with her. I'm not sure. Maybe I did and I forgot, but
Yeah, I think
funny.
uh, me. Yeah, I have this right here. See, there's Jessica Alba right there. So I've
Nice,
had. You know what's funny is I printed this out back when I was like 16, and I still have it.
nice, nice.
Funny.
That's funny.
I don't even know why I kept it.
You're still in the room in which you were when you were 16.
No, no, no,
Oh, okay.
no, no. No, I moved here like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but most of the stuff I threw out when I was moving. So, but for some reason I kept that. So, anyways,
I I really enjoyed this conversation, man.
yeah, likewise.
It was exactly like already from what I had heard, I already knew that this was going to be a productive conversation, and it really was. I'm never keeping like I'm trying to keep all the relationships I have online completely professional and not personal at all. But that's why like I don't talk to people off stream generally outside of like professional business. But I just want to tell you that you're really sympathetic. Do you say that sympathetic? Like,
Sympathetic.
yeah, just like the other two guys that I talked to as well. And it's really encouraging me of continuing to go on this journey of talking to people and uh, proving and showing and seeing for myself that this is all a question of humanity, and we can do a lot of good things. Yeah, I want to give you the last words. Say, how can people find you? Maybe final thoughts.
Well, I'll just say thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out too. I had a decent time with this conversation. You can only find me on YouTube. Actually, you can find me on YouTube and on Rumble since I started backing up all my videos on there. Um, so that if YouTube ever bans me again, just head over to Rumble. So Darkcel forever, and that's all I got to say right there.
Thank you, man.
All right,
That's
man.
it for the stream. I'm closing the stream. I have not read chat. I don't know how I'm going to deal with chat in the future, if I'm going to read through it or not. Feel free to comment under the video. I try to read everything. I try to respond to everyone. I guess chat is more for you guys talking between each other. I try to focus on the guest and on the conversation, and I don't want to get distracted. I also have a Discord if you guys want to join and talk. I don't do private conversations, but I always write, give some information, or if you guys want to debate between each other, it's always fine. Cool with it. Yeah, it was the first stream, by the way, where more than one person was watching. We have 10 viewers, I think, which is pretty cool, which is a new thing for me as well. Really unusual. All right. Have a great day, evening, depending on where you are, and see you next time. Bye-bye.